Dear Zoya, dear Irina, dear Yulia, dear Olga, dear Olesia, dear Victor, dear Olya, and friends and colleagues of the Ukrainian community of Athens, dear Dean, Professor Achilleas Chatziakis, dear Vice President of the Linguistic Society of Europe, Professor Rembel, dear Head of the Faculty of English, Professor Nikiforidou, dear Head of the Department of Language Linguistics, Professor Sifakis, dear colleagues, dear members of the University of Athens, dear friends and colleagues of the Linguistic Society of Europe who are attending the lectures online. Welcome to the series of lectures by Ukrainian scholars. Yes, we are here all together as an act of solidarity, support, and cooperation. And this can be something, this can mean something, and this can start something important. We thank you all from the bottom of our heart for being here in person and online for this very important event, an event of solidarity and cooperation. The event is the first day, the first step for further support of our Ukrainian colleagues and the Ukrainian community of Athens. I will have the chance to say more in my welcome words. We thank the rector of the University of Athens for his help and support. Due to other obligations, the rector cannot be here right now, but he sent us a pre-recorded welcome message, and we may watch it now.
Dear esteemed guests and colleagues, it is a great honor for me and a unique opportunity to welcome you on behalf of the National Kapodistrian University of Athens, the oldest public university in our country and in the whole area of the Balkans and the East Mediterranean, and also a member of an outstanding coalition, the Civis University Alliance. The EU initiative for the implementation of major European universities is really an important and crucial decision. Civis is a European civic university formed by the alliance of 11 leading research higher education institutions across Europe. Civis University systematically seeks inter alia to cooperate with associate partners, both local and European, who will support its actions and participate in the implementation of new initiatives. The National Kapodistrian University of Athens and, of course, the Civis Alliance consider the ongoing Russian invasion in Ukraine as an open wound on the European continent, the dramatic consequences of which are deeply regretted by the Civis University Alliance. We, the Civis University Alliance, representing 11 major European universities and more than 500,000 students, academics, and staff, stand in solidarity with people of Ukraine, with the victims of atrocities, and with our colleagues and students of Ukrainian universities in particular. As carriers of the European value of democracy, justice, and human rights, which form the cornerstone of the higher education, we are promoting the member of Civis stand strongly opposed to the transgression of international and humanitarian law and to barbarism in all its forms. The cumulative losses in human lives, the devastation, and the broader negative and destabilizing effects of the armed conflict for the European continent and globally, affecting the lives of hundreds of millions, require our countries and the EU institutions consistent and affirmative diplomatic action in a coordinated effort to put an end to this aggression before any further damage to the people of Ukraine and to world peace and economic recovery is done. It is our duty as active citizens to help those in need in each situation, for which our university and the Civis University Alliance are undertaking a series of concrete initiatives, but also not to forget the lessons of history and not to stand passive in view of war raging in our immediate surroundings, the negative consequences of which on human lives, the food chain, the environment, and the victories of humanity will affect us for many years to come. Dear colleagues, on behalf of the Senate of the National Kapodistrian University of Athens, I would like to congratulate Professor Lavidas and the MA program in English Language, Linguistics and Translation, the Faculty of English Language and Literature, and the Linguistic Society of Europe for this important initiative. Let me once say that we stand in solidarity with people of Ukraine, with the victims of atrocity, and with our colleagues and students of Ukrainian universities in particular. Thank you.
Thank you very much, dear head of the Department of English Language and Literature, distinguished guests, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. I'm delighted to salute this initiative taken by the Department of English Language and Literature of our school, especially the MA program in English Language, Linguistics and Translation, as well as the European Linguistic Society. For our school, the School of Philosophy of the National and Kapodistrian University of Athens, this is an act of crucial importance, a noteworthy action of a solidarity campaign that our colleagues of the Department of English Language and Literature were inspired by and implemented. And in my capacity as the Dean of the School of Philosophy, I would like to welcome Ukrainian scholars in Athens for a series of lectures about translation, language, education, relationship between Greeks and Ukrainian people. I personally look back with nostalgia on the beautiful moments I had experienced several years ago in Odessa while participating in an artistic event. There, I had the opportunity to admire the wonderful city and its amazing sights, and to sing together with Ukrainian colleagues. I wish that our Ukrainian brothers and sisters will soon stop experiencing the horrors of the war. I salute once again the initiative taken by all stakeholders involved in this event. I congratulate all scientists participating in this creative effort and wholeheartedly wish great success to the works of this meeting. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, dear organizers, dear colleagues, dear professors, it is my great pleasure and honor to welcome you all on behalf of the Executive Committee of Societas Linguistica Europaea, on whose I have the pleasure and privilege to be the Vice President at the moment. And it's my great pleasure to this series of lectures on Ukrainian scholars in Athens. It has been organized by Professor Nikolaos Lavidas at the University of Athens as part of the solidarity campaign to Ukrainian students in the times of war. My warm welcome to all the Ukrainian scholars who are able to accept this invitation and who made this effort to come all the way from Kiev to Athens to deliver their talks. I would like to express our gratitude to the National and Kapodistrian University of Athens for providing the venue for the event, for their support, for great hospitality, and especially to Professor Lavidas and his team for this initiative, for this great initiative, and for his enthusiasm and engagement. We truly appreciate all their efforts and the hard work that has gone into organizing this event. It is without them, it wouldn't have been possible. We would like to acknowledge as well the financial support of SLE in the framework of the research grants, which contributed substantially to the organization of this event. As you may know, Societas Linguistica Europaea is the Linguistic Society of Europe, and its purpose is the advancement of scientific study of language in all its different aspects in European countries and elsewhere. And I guess that throughout this series of lectures, will actually have an opportunity to learn a lot and investigate those various aspects of the study of language. We believe that SLE, Societas, was founded to build bridges between people, between linguists from different parts of the world. And we think that at times, at hard times as this, when contacts are being interrupted, when a war is raged in our neighboring countries, such opportunities for personal communication and for meetings are especially crucial. And we have learned to cherish them a lot. The roots of this event, of the current event, can be in a way traced back to SLE initiative that was launched exactly a year ago, soon after the outbreak of the war in Ukraine. The initiative was called Linguists Hosting Linguists, and it was a response from us, from the SLE, to the outbreak of war, during which the SLE prepared a special platform for supporting and hosting refugees by our colleagues in Europe, linguists colleagues in Europe. Throughout this initiative, new scientific and personal contacts have been established, to which I can certify myself through our meeting and then developing friendship with one of the scholars who is present today in the room, with Dr. Olga Demydenko from the Igor Sikorsky Kiev Technique, as I said, who is the invited speakers today. Well, I were with you here today on site, but I'm so happy to be able still to connect online. And without further ado, let me declare this series of lectures by Ukrainian scholars open, and I would like to wish us all a very successful event. We stand with Ukraine. Thank you.
Dear colleagues, on behalf of the Department of English Language and Literature, on behalf of all my colleagues here in Athens, I welcome you warmly to the department and to this event. Your presence here today gives us hope, really gives us hope, and a bit of confidence that maybe in the end, language and culture may be mightier than the sword. Your talks will address different topics: the translation of our language into yours, the presence and history of our people in your country, your culture, the Ukrainian culture as reflected in linguistics and translation, your education system in times of hardship and war. What better way, the perfect way for connecting our two people and our two cultures. And we really thank you for giving us the opportunity to do just that. Once again, I extend a warm welcome to all of you and wish you the best of stay in Athens and in Greece. Thank you.
Mr. Dean, Mrs. President of the Faculty of English Language and Literature, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, esteemed colleagues, on behalf of the Department of Language and Linguistics of the Faculty of English Language and Literature, I would like to wholeheartedly welcome you to Greece, to Athens, and to our department. As you probably know, the University of Athens is the first university in Greece, as Professor Haldiakis mentioned, established in 1837, and this faculty was founded just 72 years ago, so it's still relatively new and young. In the late 1980s, the faculty moved to the huge building that is just across, adjacent to this one, that you're very welcome to visit. It's one of the biggest buildings in Athens and Greece, and probably in the rest of the Balkans. It's a huge, huge building, because it hosts 13 departments. The Department of Language and Linguistics of the Faculty of English Language and Literature is tasked with researching and teaching at undergraduate and graduate levels subjects related to the study of the English language, theoretical linguistics, applied linguistics, which includes the education of prospective teachers of English, and translation. We live today in a world of extreme turmoil. No one understands this more than the people of Ukraine, a country that has so viciously been attacked and invaded, and a nation that has been so heroically and nobly defending itself for a relentless but extremely daring 14 months now, in spite of the huge numbers of casualties and many cities destroyed. The entire world is in awe of the bravery, sacrifice, and deep, selfless love and passion of all Ukrainian people for their country. We hope and pray that this war ends as soon as possible, with the entire country of Ukraine being united and completely at the hands of the Ukrainian people. We are extremely grateful and proud to have you, dear colleagues, and friends among us here in this two-day event that serves to remind us all of the important scientific work that you carry out. We are eager to learn from you and appreciate and comprehend many really interesting and important dimensions of the linguistic, cultural, and historical analyses that you will present in this conference. Among other topics, the function and impact of Greek, in particular ancient Greek, in Ukraine, and the rich history of Greeks in your great country. So on behalf of the members of the Department of Language and Linguistics of the Faculty of English Language and Literature, I would like to extend my sincere thanks and warm congratulations to Dr. Lavidas, the Linguistic Society of Europe, and the organizing committee for this admirable initiative, and hope and wish that you have a wonderful time in our city, enjoy the conference, and wish the conference the very best. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm really nervous a little bit, but αξιότιμοι, dear professors, dear members of the faculty, dear Ukrainian colleagues and members of the community. I'm on behalf of our volunteer center and also on behalf of the whole Ukrainian community in Greece, I'm really grateful for this. I would like to express deep gratitude for the university, Kapodistrian University, and for the Faculty of English Language and Literature, and also for their European Linguistic Society of Europe holding this event today, and as a part of solidarity campaign with people of Ukraine and with Ukrainian scholars in particular. So special thanks to Dr. Nikos Lavidas for his great effort and actually only thanks to his great effort this event is possible today. And I admire his vision, his persistence, his networking and management skills in organizing this event. Thank you very much. And the people of Ukraine, we are generally, needless to mention this, but it's worth mentioning many times that we are grateful to the people of Europe, like Europeans who, from different European countries who helped us, hosted us, Ukrainians, and helped us to find safe refuge in their countries. Because many of us had to leave our homes, fleeing from bombs that destroyed our lives, our plans for the future, destroyed our families. So although many important decisions were done on the government level, by the governments, but the support we Ukrainians got from the ordinary people is invaluable. And the examples of compassion and kindness toward fellow human beings is countless. And of course, I also want to thank you, these wonderful women, Ukrainian scholars who came all the way from Kiev, and it took them over 2 days to get here. We also have to appreciate this effort. to be with us today and to share their experiences, their work with us. And the journey from Kiev to Athens used to be only 2 hours, yeah, by flight, by plane. But in many aspects, Ukraine was and still is a terra incognita for many people in Greece and in Europe overall. And despite we have a lot of similarities and we share a lot of common pages of the history. Even now, when on screens all over the world, there are numerous images from Ukraine. What most people tend to see, it's pictures full of destruction, debris, grief. But what we Ukrainians see now in Ukraine are the images of solidarity, resilience, and hope. We see thousands of unknown heroes who, like teachers, bread makers, bus drivers, electricians, who keep doing their job every day, despite danger, despite stress, and despite year-long fatigue from the situation. So, and some of them are here today as well. Yeah. So we believe that actually communication and is the best way to learn about the country, and that's how the idea behind this event was born. So to bring people together, to bring Ukrainian scholars and Greek scholars together, so that you could see not only at the statistics, at the news report, but you could see at the faces of real people, to talk to them, to discuss with them the situation and actually their works and your work. And so the notion of people-to-people diplomacy is not new. Yeah, and we all here are ambassadors of our country. So thank you for being able to speak to you today. And I hope that this event will become one of many steps of integrating Ukrainian scholars into the European scientific family, and it will encourage to build some fruitful ties between universities, maybe some exchange programs, I hope. And also it will inspire a lot of research projects or some common projects in the future. So thank you again for holding this event today and for welcoming our Ukrainian scholars here, and I hope that there will be more in the future. Thank you.
We are all here to express our continued support of the people of Ukraine and of our Ukrainian colleagues who are the victims of the war in Europe 1 year after the Russian invasion. Allow me to say from the beginning that we have all been and participated in hundreds of events, but for me, none of these events was as essential and as real as the present one. Athens, where the heart of linguistics of Europe, will be next August, when Athens will be organizing the conference of the Linguistic Society of Europe, also becomes a place where solidarity for the people of Ukraine is expressed with the strongest possible voice. The Academia of Greece cannot but be with Ukraine, with the people of Ukraine and with Ukrainian academia, now and for as long as it takes. For us, war in Europe is not business as usual. Moreover, attrition cannot be a word for us. It cannot be an idea or a situation we can accept. The main aim of the event is to establish the basis for immediate and future essential collaboration between departments, scientific projects, and programs of studies of the University of Athens and our Ukrainian colleagues. We should stress that the lectures of our Ukrainian colleagues are the heart of the event, They represent different aspects of scientific and cultural connections between Ukraine and Greece, and offer us a great overview of the scientific work that continues to take place in Ukraine and by Ukrainian scholars. The thank you part of my welcome words can be really long because it should include the Linguistic Society of Europe, its president, Professor Ari Verhangen, its vice president, Professor Magdalena Rembel, its secretary, Professor Bert Kornig, all members of the executive committee, all members of the Linguistic Society of Europe who wanted to find ways to support the Ukrainian scholars and the Ukrainian linguists for the first moments of the Russian invasion and the war. SLE started with an initiative, Linguists Hosting Linguists, as a solidarity act to help colleagues who had to leave the areas of conflict. It is one of the few times, and it's one of the very first times after the pandemic, that all the following institutions decided to support the event and put it under their aegis: the Faculty of English Language and Literature, the Department of Language Linguistics, the MA program of English Language Linguistics and Translation. I thank the head of the Faculty of English, Professor Nikiforidou, and the head of the Department of Language Linguistics, Professor Sifakis, and all members of the faculty from the bottom of my heart. It was impressive, the unanimous decision of the necessity to organize this type of event, to find a way to express our support. And it is one of the few times that we are all together without any second thought. Actually, when I wanted to propose the event, I had collected hundreds of arguments to convince everybody. But all were so happy to accept the proposal in, let's say, 10 seconds. And this is something we already gained. We know we are all together in this. The rector of the University of Athens, Professor Dimopoulos, the dean of the School of Philosophy, Professor Hadeakis, honored the event and opened the directions of common efforts to find ways for a future collaboration between our Ukrainian colleagues and the people of the University of Athens. And I thank them from the bottom of my heart. I kindly ask the Dean of the School of Philosophy to exhaust all possibilities of essential help and support of our colleagues from Ukraine and of the Ukrainian community of Athens. I'm absolutely sure for his support and his essential help. It is important that the University of Athens, and especially the School of Philosophy, should establish a collaboration with Ukrainian scholars who are now in Ukraine and abroad. To mention only two ideas, the University of Athens should offer the Ukrainian community all possible support, first, in the form of courses without fees. All our programs, all our courses should be open to the Ukrainian community without fees. And second, in the form of establishment of specialized projects for the help of the Ukrainian community and the involvement of the Ukrainian community in the life of Athens and the academic life of the University of Athens. The purpose of our presence here, of our discussions here, of the opportunity to be together at the same place is not only the recognition of the needs, but also finding actual solutions. All the above ideas of support will enrich the University of Athens to a significant degree. This means this is a selfish, allow me to say, way of supporting our Ukrainian colleagues and the Ukrainian community of Athens, because the scientific community of the University of Athens will become stronger through this process. Would also like to ask for the participation of the Linguistic Society of Europe and of other European universities of the CIVIS network, of other networks of European universities as well, to find the best possible ways and solutions to achieve the above purposes. The lectures today and on Thursday are an example of how, in reality, the cooperation between Ukrainian institutions and Ukrainian scholars and the University of Athens may open new directions in research and teaching at the University of Athens. I would like to thank the Ukrainian Center OPORA and especially Olga Rydzagivska. Their help to the Ukrainian refugees and to the Ukrainian community of Athens was and is extremely significant. They reacted immediately. They made their voices heard as much as possible. They taught us what is important in life and how to fight for significant values in times of war and humanitarian crisis. Their behavior, their values, their character is and should be a model for all of us. I would like to thank our MA students who are our collaborators in preparing the event. Sofia Chionidi, Thanos Patras, Maria Episkopou, Eleni Nasi, Olga Marinova, Natasha Tsiropina. Their help is extremely valuable. As always, nothing will be possible without them. The two-day event has in its center the people of Ukraine, the Ukrainian scholars. They are offering us knowledge, and we thank them from the bottom of our heart. They are offering us their thoughts, ideas, insights, types of starting points of how we can strengthen the scientific relation between Ukraine and Greece. We can promise them that what they are offering us today and on Thursday will grow to something important in the immediate and near future, something we can be proud of, both in Ukraine and Greece. What we will certainly achieve here is that we will show how the scientific and academic community is united and supports its members and all humans in need in times of war and crisis. The contribution of Zoya Kornieva, Irina Borbenchuk, Olesia Zdanovic, Larisa Taranenko, Yulia Baklazenko, Olga Demidenko, Viktor Stavnik is the heart of the event. I don't need to say that the above colleagues are offering us the event. They offer us their lectures, their perspective, and we thank them immensely. The structure of the event focuses on the lectures of our colleagues from Ukraine. We will start now with the first lecture by Zoya Kornieva and Irina Borbenchuk, and then we will connect via WebEx with Kyiv and Professor Viktor Stavnik, who will briefly discuss aspects of his research and the presence of the Greek language in the academic life of Ukraine. After our short break, we will have two more lectures by Olesia Zdanovic and by Olga Demidenko. We will end the first day of the lectures with short discussion related to all lectures and with a small reception. We will need your ideas and for strengthening the scientific relations between Ukraine and Greece and for the further support of the Ukrainian community. We will meet here again on Thursday because of this change in the program, because of the strike. We'll meet here again on Thursday at 4:30. We start with the welcome words of the president of the Linguistics Society of Europe, Professor Ari Verheijen, who will honor the event. We will continue with two lectures by Zoya Kornieva and Irina Borbenchuk, and by Larisa Taranenko. And Yulia Baklazenko will offer her lecture before our overall discussion. Again, it will be important to further work on ideas of collaboration, joint projects, common efforts for continued solidarity and support. The second day will close with a small reception. We also record the whole event to make it available to all SLE members in Europe and the whole world in the future. I'm sure that we will enjoy wonderful lectures and discussions with the aim of immediate and future collaboration. And I finish my welcome words with the wish that we will meet here again very, very, very soon to celebrate the end of the war, to celebrate peace in Europe, and to celebrate a just peace for Ukraine. Thank you very much. So we are now ready for the main part of the event, the lectures. And I would like to invite Professor Kornieva and Professor Borbenchuk. The title of their lecture is historical background and modern trends in translation events in Greek literature into Ukrainian. I could say many things, but I think we are a bit late in the program, so you can find the information about the profile of our colleagues in the program and, of course, online. So we may start immediately, avoid any other delay. So thank you, Zoya.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, dear Professor Lavidas. Dear esteemed guests of these, without any exaggeration, outstanding events, and on behalf of the Faculty of Linguistics of the National Technical University of Ukraine, Igor Sikorsky Polytechnic Institute, as an acting dean of the Faculty of Linguistics, I would like to express my wholehearted and sincere gratitude to the organizers of this event, and in particular to the rector of the university, to the dean of the School of Philosophy, to the heads of the faculty of the English language, and to the head of the language linguistics department. My sincere and wholehearted gratitude as well to Professor Rambel and as well to Professor Lavidas, without whom this event wouldn't have become reality for all of us. Thank you very much for having us all here, and I do believe that this event will mark the beginning of further development and strengthening ties in between our universities and Greece and Ukraine. Thank you very much. My dear, I would like to start this series of lectures with the first lecture, the title of which you may see on the slide. It's going to be dedicated to the historical development and the modern trends in the translation of the ancient Greek literature into Ukrainian. The outline of the lecture, so where I should... Oh, this way. Thank you very much. Still not working. Just a moment, sorry. The whole lecture will be dedicated to such questions as the translated literature as a cultural and historical phenomenon. Then I will talk on the development of translations in Kiev and Rus in between the 14th and the 16th centuries. Then further about the activities of Kiev Mohyla Academy in the 17th and 18th century. Afterwards, about the translation as a factor in Ukrainian nation building in the 19th and the 20th century. And at the very end of my lecture, I would give a very brief insight into the study of antiquity at the Faculty of Linguistics, where we all work. So the first question is translated literature as a cultural and historical phenomenon. Translated literature is an important cultural factor for every nation, as it provides an opportunity, as once mentioned by our genius Ivan Franko, to get acquainted with the works of human spirit, which in other regions at different times caused the spread of enlightenment and the raising of the general level of culture. It is the material for creation of a great number of literary types, assimilation and use of the experience of other literatures, the formation of national literatures, the resources of which are sometimes limited. And also, translation is the form of literary creativity when the works in one language are reproduced by means of the other language. Translations, renditions, imitations, variations, reworkings are sometimes even difficult to define, or even impossible to define due to the change of these concepts in the historical dimension. However, these receptions enrich and diversify national literatures. Deepening the views on translation and its historical conditioning, it is appropriate to mention the work Translation, Community and Utopia by Lawrence Venuti, where translation is considered not to be just a communicative act. It involves intercultural communication, interpretations of literary historians and critics which a given text may have in other cultural forms and practices. In his other article, Local Contingencies, Translation and National Identities, Lawrence Venuti discovers a new meaning of translations who, through their activities, try to form national identity by identifying the readers with a certain national discourse, which was clearly distinguished from the dominant foreign nations. Okay. Just a moment, a little bit backwards. Yeah, thank you very much. The same opinion is supported by our famous translator and interpreter, Maxim Striha, in his fundamental work, Ukrainian Translation and Translators Between Literature and Nation Building. Paying special attention to translation and translators in the 19th and 20th centuries, the scientist notes that during a certain period, translation performed not only an informational function, as potential readers could familiarize themselves with a certain work in translations into the language of the metropolises, like German, Polish, or directly in the original, but above all, translations performed a nation-building functions. The first period I would like to dwell on is dedicated to Kievan Rus, and I would like to dwell on the translations in this very period, which covers the 10th and the 13th centuries. Kievan Rus, like all medieval countries, gained experience in cultural development, taking into account the culture of ancient Greece and Rome. Bulgaria and Byzantium played the most important role in this respect. International treaties proved the arrival of literature from Byzantium, Bulgaria, and Western Europe. Ancient Rus was extremely closely connected with Byzantium, on which it was completely dependent at first as a metropolis and patriarchate of Constantinople. The language of diplomacy, the interstate communication in the 9th and the 10th century was, of course, Greek. Greek as the language of culture, the language of ancient science. During the time of Grand Duke Yaroslav, there were people in Kiev who knew Greek well and who translated it into Old Russian. Traces of the use of translated books are indicated in particular by ancient Kievan Rus chronicles and Western chronicles. On the contrary, we can find information about the Slavs in the depiction of the lives of Demetrius Thessaloniki, Stephen of Suresh, George the Amastris, and others in the Sinaitic, Egyptian, Roman, Scythian, alphabetic Jerusalem patristics of the 11th and 12th centuries. Studying the history of European civilization, enlightenment, and literature in the Middle Ages, in the area of adoption of Christianity, we notice basically almost the same phenomena. Just a moment. Sophia, again, it's not working. Okay, thank you very much. The next one, please. Yes. This commonwealth of Christian literature and culture is connected with Greece, with the Greek Church, and with the Eastern Empire, Byzantium. Spiritual and general education were closely connected at the time. The latter was under the influence of church books, the Church Slavonic language, and the Greek Enlightenment. But in Kiev, Christians had not only Greek worships, but also live church services in their indigenous language. The 10th and 12th century is the first period in the Old Russian books in Kievan Rus, the period when the first libraries were founded, in particular the foundations of the first state library on the territory were laid, the library of Yaroslav the Wise, when the largest scriptorium in Eastern Europe was functioning at St. Sophia Cathedral in Kiev. Just a moment, the next one, please. Yes. Considerable work was carried out in the field of chronicles, translations of Byzantine literature, religious texts, secular chronicles, novels. Translated Greek literature had strong influence on the development of this process. Translations from the Greek language were carried out during the time of Kievan Rus only in Sophia Scriptorium. Here books were not only copied but also translated from foreign languages. The ancient Kievan Rus translators managed not only to create accurate, adequate translations, but also to preserve the style and rhythm of the Greek originals. The Holy Scriptures, works of church dogmatics and patristics, hagiography and homiletics, liturgy and hymnography were translated during the princely era. The next, oh, okay, that's right. The popular collection, Chela or the Bee, contained excerpts from Aristotle, Pythagoras, Menander, Plutarch, and the collection of Sviatoslav, which traces back to 1073, selected works of John Chrysostom, Basil the Great, and Gregory the Theologian. The impact of translated literature was definitely positive. Practical application in religious worships, satisfaction of aesthetic needs, and formation of original literature, as well creation of polemics. Translated literature in princely Ukraine Rus was not only read, but it caused as well intellectual discussions. The next period I am going to talk on, is the period in between the 14th and the 16th century. The period of the Mongol Tatar invasion, which was not marked by bright translational projects. Along with many religious texts, non-religious works were also translated. And among them, the legend of the Indian kingdom, Trojan War, etc. Translations related to the socio-economic life of the country were also carried out. Translations which appeared in the second half of the 13th and the 14th century fully corresponding to the spiritual state of the people who were under the Mongol yoke, and had utopian and eschatological character. They all told about doomsday. Despite the fact that the vast majority of translations were carried out from the ancient Greek language, it is known that some translators resorted to Latin or classic Jewish sources. Starting from the end of the 13th century, Kiev begins to lose its importance as a cultural and political center. Instead, a particular movement of cultural and spiritual forces in eastern direction is observed. The next slide, please. No, backwards, please. Yes, this one, thank you very much. I will tell you if it's possible to change this. Okay, now it's working, thank you very much. During the reign of the Muscovite Empire and the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth in between the 16th and the 18th centuries, Ukrainian culture proved to be powerful enough to preserve and develop its own translation schools and systems. In the 15th century, new editions of some books of the Old Testament as well as the Gospel appear. In the 16th century, translations of such works as Secrets of Secrets, Sixfold, Psalter by Fedor Zhidovin appear. A translation from the German work Luciferia was also made. According to some features, transcription of proper names, organization of the text, and lexical features, they are classified as direct translations from Hebrew. The first translation into Ukrainian is considered to be Peresopnitsa Gospel, published in between 1556 and 1561. According to the researchers, this text played an extremely important role in the formation of the Ukrainian Cossackdom. The translation of Gospel was carried out during the supervision of Archimandrite Grigory from Peresopnitsa Monastery, and with the participation of the son of Archpriest Michael. Some features of the translations indicate that the translators used not only the Church Slavonic, but also Czech and Polish versions. Sophia, sorry, not functioning again. Okay. Okay, yeah, this one, thank you very much. In the 15th and the 16th centuries, spiritual stories were spread. They tell about the magnet kings and the sufferings of Christ. These were indirect translations or adaptations of Latin originals made most often from Polish versions. Polish and less often Czech languages served as the mediatory languages for the Ukrainian translators of religious and secular books. However, parallel examples of direct translation from Latin appear. They probably include the translation adaptation of the legend of St. George. Along with religious texts, some scientific works are also translated, including the treatise on logic by Moses Maimonides, a Jewish theologian, philosopher, and physician. The didactic treatise Aristotle's Gates, another name is The Secret of Secrets, which comes from an Arabic source, was translated in the 10th and 11th centuries. It was translated into Latin and Hebrew. Its translation was made in Ukrainian 4 centuries later, on the basis of the Hebrew text, since it contains a lot of Hebraisms. Diplomatic relations, the next one, thank you very much, of Ukraine with the Ottoman Empire, the Crimean Khanate, France, Austria, Poland, and Moldavia, which developed in the 16th century after the creation of the Cossack Christian Republic, which was called Zaporižská Sich, gave grounds to talk about the existence of written and oral diplomatic translations in the then Ukrainian state. The activity expanded in the 17th century under the hetmanship of Bogdan Khmelnytsky, who had ambassadors in the majority of neighboring European countries. During the 15th and the 17th centuries, translation in Ukraine was considered actually to be Ukrainian literature proper. Almost all works were translated or retranslated from the Polish language, since a large part of the territory of modern Ukraine was part of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. The next period to be covered is the period in between the 17th and the 18th century, and I would like to talk about the activities of the famous, perhaps the most famous educational institution of the time, I mean Kiev-Mohyla Academy. Kiev-Mohyla Academy, which existed in the 17th and the 18th centuries, became an important cultural, educational, and translational center, which united talented scientists and professors, among them Meleti Smotritsky, Petro Mohyla, Feofan Prokopovich, Grigory Konetsky, who knew several languages, including Latin, Greek, Church, Slavonic, and Polish. At the same time, it's worth noting that Ukrainian translators of that time, including graduates and scientists of Kiev-Mohyla Academy, did not leave activities related to the development of the theory of translation, methods, and principles of translation. During the 17th and the 18th century, the Ukrainian readers became acquainted with some literary works of the Italian Renaissance in translations. First of all, it was Boccaccio's short story Tancred, Sigismund, and Gishkat, an excerpt from Tasso's poem Jerusalem Liberated, and 10 songs from this poem. These texts were translated by Lavrenti Gorka, the teacher of Kiev Academy. They reproduce the Polish versions, which explains the presence of a lot of Polonisms in them. Ancient heritage reached Ukrainian land thanks to the work of Grigory Skovoroda, a philosopher, teacher, and poet who made a significant contribution to the development of translation in Ukraine in the 15th and the 16th century. He translated the masterpieces of Horace, Virgil, Ovid, Cicero, Plutarch, as well as the works of Neo-Latin poets, in particular the French humanist Marc-Antoine Muret. Grigory Skovoroda was one of the graduates of the Academy who, having thorough knowledge of the ancient philosophy and literature in his writings, adhered to the ancient ideas of self-knowledge and self-sufficiency of the individual, and freely used Latin and ancient Greek in his correspondence and his own philosophical treatises. His translation of Plutarch's works enriched the corpus of translated literature. The next period is the period in between the 19th and the 20th centuries. During this very period, translation was considered to be a factor of Ukrainian nation building. This period is characterized by significant historical events that affected the cultural life of the Ukrainian society and led to the ban on the Ukrainian language, political repressions by the Soviet authorities, persecutions, interrogation, publication bans, exile to Siberia and camps. But even this could not stop or suppress the flowering of the new Ukrainian literature and the quantitative growth of translated literature. The translation heritage of the outstanding Ukrainian poet, whose name I mentioned at the beginning of this lecture, I mean Ivan Franko, a great scientist, a researcher of ancient Greece and Rome, includes the tragedies by Sophocles, Hesiod's poems, Homeric hymns, fragments from Aristophanes' comedies like Clouds and Frogs, two songs from Homer's Odyssey, poetry of Sappho, Alceste, Pinda, and Menander. Ivan Franko considered ancient poetry to be the treasury of world literature, provided research and thorough prefaces to his translations, which were written on the basis of profound studies of the work of poetry, taking into account critical European thought. One more famous Ukrainian poetess, Lesia Ukrainka, realizing the underdeveloped nature of the literary field, put forward her own concept of translation from foreign languages, taking into account the needs of modernization of the Ukrainian literature. Her literary heritage has extensively absorbed various approaches to perception of antiquity. The list of her numerous translations from foreign languages includes as well fragments of Homer's Odyssey. The Hellenistic translator Petro Nishinsky, pseudonym Petro Baida, graduated from the philological and theological faculties here in Athens. Having his views on the development of the ancient heritage, he translated the tragedy of Sophocles' Antigone, published in 1883, and the entire Odyssey by Homer. Due to the censorship ban on translation, the manuscript was taken to Lviv in 1887 and published there with the assistance of Ivan Franko. In 1889, the first 12 songs, and in 1892, the next 12 songs. The popularization of ancient literature was facilitated by the circle of Kiev neoclassicists in the 1920s, and among them Zerov, Draichmara, Filipovich, Burkhardt, one of the activities of which was the translation of classical authors. Also at the time in Western Ukraine and the diaspora, new little-known names appear. For example, yes, thank you very much. For example, Ludsky, who published the translations of Alceste, Sappho, and Acreon, Yuri Khimenyak, who published the translations of Aesop's fables, Lipinsky, who published Plato's Laws, and Nicolitian, who translated Olympic speeches by Demosthenes. I can name many, many others, as this circle is quite extensive. The heritage of the poet and translator Volodymyr Svidzinski was banned for a long time, and he only could publish an excerpt from Hesiod's poem Works and Days in his poetry book September in 1927. It was a translation of more than 2/3 of the poem. He included 2 excerpts from the poem in the second collection, and Alexander Biletsky was able to publish 5 more excerpts in the book Antique Anthology in 1938. In his work, Svidzinski preserved the division of Hesiod's continuous texts into fragments introduced by Ivan Franko, but partially modified the names of the thematic fragments proposed by Franko and combined some of them. He brilliantly translated 3 comedies by Aristophanes, Clouds, Frogs, Wasps, which in 1939 were published under one cover on very poor quality paper. But at the end of the book, a detailed rhyming schemes of Aristophanes' verse were introduced. In 1941, Volodymyr Svidzinski died a terrible death. As the German troops approached Kharkiv, he was arrested by the Soviet authorities, along with other representatives of the Ukrainian intelligentsia, and burnt alive in the barn in the village of Nepokryte near Saltov, together with other prisoners. The fundamental anthology, Ancient Literature, which was published in 1938 by Alexander Beletsky, who knowingly did not mention the translators' names either in the contents or after the text. He could only indicate in the preface some of the names which were not banned at the time. And then there was a sentence by Beletsky: for all the translations included in the anthology and which do not belong to the previously listed translators, the compiler himself is responsible. Thus, Alexander Beletsky took responsibility for the translations of Mykola Zerov, who had already been shot at the time, and then transferred the fees for the books to his wife. The translator Boris Ten, Mykola Khomychevsky, was also subjected to political repression as he was a priest. During 1930 and 1936, he was in exile in the Far East and then underwent repressions. During the war, he was at the front and was captured by the Germans, where he should have been shot as a former writer and priest, but he survived by chance. His authorship includes numerous translations from Western literature, but Boris Ten's life's work, and I will further talk on this tomorrow, was classical literature, and in particular tragedies by Aeschylus, by Sophocles, the comedies of Aristophanes, and of course translations of Homer's Iliad and Odyssey, which we will dwell, as I have already told, in more detail tomorrow. He receives favorable reviews from Mykola Zerov, Alexander Beletsky, and our famous poet Maxim Tadeusz Rylsky, who in his letter dated January the 28th, 1963, writes the following: finally, I finished reading your Odyssey, and now I rightfully congratulate you. You have accomplished a great feat. The next period. Yes, thank you very much. The 21st century and the modern trends in translation. It is worth noting that the two areas of activities of translations from the ancient Greek language exist: the translation of classical works of ancient literature and the translation of Christian literature. Andriy Sodomora, who also experienced Soviet politics methods as the son of a priest, he was unable to study at the historical faculty of Lviv University, so he chose classical philology, is an iconic figure for the Ukrainian translation of classics. Having translated in 1962 Menander's comedy The Hamed, which was found in the late 1950s in Egypt, he received a favorable review from the translator Grigory Kochur. While studying antiquity, Sodomora became the author of the translations from the ancient Greek language, which he complemented with the scientific investigation and comprehensive comments about the ancient authors and their era. Being the author of his own books, he set out his concept of translation and the role of translator in the book Studies of One Verse, which is not a translation study in the classical sense, not a consideration of the translation method of this or that translator. These are only individual thoughts that subtly and deeply capture what characterizes the translator's handwriting and define his essence. The Lviv School of Classics continues to develop, and its representatives are successfully working on translations from classical languages. Monuments of Christian literature translated into Ukrainian and published with the introductory articles by Lesia Zvonska, Oleg Kožušny, Alexander Levko are extremely interesting. Thus, Lesia Zvonska translated the homilies and moral and aesthetic works by Basil the Great. Kožušny implementing the project of translating into Ukrainian the monuments of the ancient Christian writing, published Didaic, the teaching of 12 apostles. As well, a lot of works were translated by Levko, and among them the Shepherd of Hermas, the treatise of St. Gregory of Nyssa on perfection with introductory articles and notes. No less important are the editions of textbooks of Greek patristics of the 1st and the 5th century, which were published in 2015, which included the original texts with comments and the ancient Greek classics lyrics, an anthology with a preface and commentary by Megela and Levko. Taking into account the needs for developing the Ukrainian content and supporting the continuous tradition of the Ukrainian School of Translation, modern translations continue to contribute to the development of literary and cultural process. And just a few words, very briefly about the faculty, yes, of linguistics, where we all work, and how antiquity is studied at our faculty in particular. Ancient Greek, I would like to mention, is not studied at the Faculty of Linguistics. However, the educational and scientific program in philology has been created in such a way that it allows to get acquainted with the heritage of the ancient Greeks in the courses of compulsory and selective disciplines, deepen the knowledge in this sphere, and apply philological knowledge to solve professional tasks. In the compulsory course, Introduction to Roman and Germanic Linguistics, Latin, students study the basics of the Latin language, get acquainted with the ancient history and culture. For this purpose, the following topics are discussed at lectures: ancient mythology, both Greek and Roman, education and upbringing of the ancient Romans and Greeks. We consider the traditions of Athens and Sparta separately. Libraries, museums, theaters of Greece and Rome, life and customs of Greeks and Romans, houses, cooking, holidays and banquets, clothes and cosmetics, development of the arts, literature, oratory, architecture, military affairs, law. In the course History of Foreign Literature, Ancient Literature, classical works of Greek and Roman authors are studied in detail. Students have the opportunity to read excerpts from the classics, Latin texts first of all, and hear excerpts from the text of the ancient Greek authors read by the teacher. The course History of Translation provides an introduction to the translational activities of the ancient Greeks. They did not translate in particular because they had no need to translate from barbarian language and familiarize themselves with barbarian literature, which was quantitatively poor, and Romans, as well as the peculiarities of the translation of ancient authors, in particular the works of Homer, reproduction of ancient rhyming into European languages. Students analyze translations and scientific articles devoted to the topic. Elective course Latin in the medical sphere and jurisprudence. Students increase here their erudition and cultural competence through in-depth study of medical Latin, which involves the assimilation of Greek medical terms, Greek composites, and the declension of Greek nouns. Students study the history of medicine as a science and examine the activities of Greek physicians in their treatises on medicine. The last course, Ancient Themes in European Literature, contributes to the development of critical thinking and forms of a system of knowledge about literary comparative studies, traditional plots and images, types and forms of typological comparisons in the process of analyzing literature, individual literary works, and literary phenomena. And here we again turn to Greek mythology and literature to find, trace, and compare traditional Greek plots and images in the modern European literature. Students like to prepare presentations and reports on the use of mythological plots and images in various forms of art: painting, music, literature, architecture, sculpture, and cinematography. You see, that's how we contribute to the preservation and continuation of the tradition, which, as you may judge from my lecture, exists for more than 1,000 years. And I am absolutely sure will further continue. Thank you very much for your attention. Thanks a lot. Questions are welcome. Thanks. Yes, of course.
Questions for all lectures.
Yeah.
Like that. Or if there is a question now, of course, we can change the program a little bit and have 1 or 2 minutes for questions. And if there is for me, it was fascinating.
Okay, thank you very much.
One of my favorite areas of research, the connection between history of translation and history of language and languages. So great.
Thank you very
and
much.
Wonderful ideas. I mean, we may start wonderful projects in the future. So, questions from our students, for our colleagues.
Thank you very much. This was really fascinating. I'm not an expert in translation by any means, but I was really struck by the fact that there was a slide in your presentation that referred to the contribution of translation as an act of helping towards the formation of the Ukrainian identity.
Yes, of course.
So my question is, I can understand the choice of texts to translate as a means of connecting with the rich tradition of the European history, going back to the ancient Greek monuments of,
yes,
of literature and drama and poetry. The other thing is the act of translating itself, which should be really daunting, and would. My question is, to what extent did it really help towards developing a linguistic identity for the Ukrainian people? The act of translating.
Yeah, I see. Thank you very much for the question. It's very, very important. I started with this because translation is, of course, a crucial factor in any nation building. And the opportunity for us to touch upon the masterpieces of classical literature, of course, had great influence on the development of our national literature and on the development of our nation. And the translators, they really borrowed a lot from the classical tradition. They, of course, somehow adapted it to the Ukrainian reality, but still, we borrowed quite a lot, and everything that was created by the ancient Greeks in particular was of utter importance for the development of our culture.
So, any other questions or yes?
Thank you. The presentation was amazing. I loved how you included the flower theme that is present in traditional costumes. I would like to ask, were these translations of ancient Greek plays mostly aimed towards the academic community, or was it done in a way that it could be that they could be read by the general public as a means of entertainment?
Thank you very much. You see, it happened so that even small children in our country, they know well the Greek mythology. And my children are not an exclusion in this sense. If we talk about the poetry and drama, all these masterpieces are not so well known, are not so widespread, but still the academicians in our country, in every sphere related to philology, they all study antique literature and the ancient Greek literature in particular. Thank you.
Καλησπέρα σας, αγαπητοί συνάδελφοι. Είναι μεγάλη τιμή για μένα να είμαι μαζισάς σήμερα. Ευχαριστώ πολύ για αυτή την ευκαιρία. Επειδή δεν μιλάω ελληνικά για πολύ καιρό, τότε θα κάνω την παρουσίασή μου στα українська. Отже, за образним висловом одного з філологів-класиків, історик без філології приречений витати у хмарах, але й філолог без історії приречений повзати по землі. І дійсно, історія як наука відроджується в новій Європі через повернення до текстів Геродота, батька історії за визначенням Цицерона, ще й сьогодні шанованого істориками Фукідіда, Ксенофонта, інших античних авторів. Історичний гранд-наратив нової, а почасти і новітньої доби створювався на основі, відповідно, наративних джерел. У властивому, початковому значенні цього терміну наратив – це текст, написаний певною мовою. І щоб його зрозуміти, треба розуміти мову цього тексту. У випадку із згаданими вже Геродотом, Фукідідом і Ксенофонтом знати треба мову давньогрецьку. Історична освіта, отже, значною мірою була пов'язана з класичною філологією, а історичні студії, відповідно, розглядалися як складова частина студій класичних. Sed tempora mutantur, et nos mutamur in illis. Сьогодні вже майже загально прийнято вважати, що текст є не тільки джерелом історичного пізнання, але й результатом історичного дослідження. Текстом є все. Все є текст. Everything is a text. Як у постструктуралізмі Жака Дерріда. Від формули води до карти зоряного неба. Але щоб їх прочитати, треба знати мову, хімічних формул, астрономічних термінів, etc. Увага ж до візуальних джерел значно посилена в результаті візуального повороту, актуалізувало проблему співвідношення між мовою артефактів і словниковим контекстом мови сучасників цих артефактів, їх авторів і читачів. Без вирішення цієї не стільки історичної, стільки лінгвістичної проблеми пошуки дійсного значення мови артефактів перетворюються на гру у смисли, а дослідник – на фокусника, лінгвіста-синолога з засліплення Еліаса Канетті. Прості речі в його руці перетворюються на речі неймовірні. І навпаки, знання мови сучасників артефактів перетворює ці джерела в надійне джерело історичного пізнання. Так, основна проблема лінійного письма А полягає у визначенні мови, якою розмовляли мінойці, і якою вони читали складені ними ж тексти. Фахівці і численні дилетанти читають знаменитий фестський диск кожен на свій смак. Хтось як гімн на честь верховного божества, хтось як переписаний місцевим шрифтом феста лувійський лист від великого царя Тархундараду з Арцави до царя Нестора з Пілесу. А хтось як історія здобуття трипільцями нової батьківщини. Не скована знаннями мови тексту фантазія дозволяє прочитати його як завгодно, а вірніше на смак читача. Бо ж квіт-квіт рецептур, секундум модум рецепієнтіс. Ця схоластична теза цілком пасує і до поширених сьогодні варіацій рецептивної естетики, receptions aesthetic, чи в американському варіанті Aesthetic of Reception. Зовсім інша ситуація з лінійним письмом Б, Продуктивна ідея щодо адаптованої до вимог складового письма грецької мови мікенських табличок дозволила їм, за висловом професора Львівського університету, сьогодні вже названого Соломона Яковича Лур'є, заговорити мовою їхніх сучасників, їхніх авторів і читачів. Звичайно, для того, щоб створюваний ними текст зрозуміти, новим читачам треба знати мову давньогрецьку. Те ж саме стосується і великого масиву справжніх текстів античних авторів, давно вже прочитаних і, як вже було сказано, покладених в основу історичного гранд-наративу справжніх текстів античних авторів. Як відомо, будь-який переклад створює вже інший текст, часто сповнений інших, невластивих оригіналам смислів. Прикладів таких смислів для класичних авторів безліч. Згадаємо тут тільки історію перекладу слова «геполіс». Основний феномен античної цивілізації, який значною мірою уможливив усю її несхожість з іншими цивілізаціями стародавнього світу, він, цей феномен, навіть у фаховій літературі часто перекладається не дуже відповідними йому змісту за часів розквіту античної Елади описовими конструкціями. Сіті-стейт, штат-штат, сіте-ета, місто-держава тощо. При цьому залишаються поза увагою його важливі інші смисли, як громадянської общини, колективу громадян тощо. Те ж саме і зміст слів «годемос» чи «популюс романус», навіть у кращих перекладах. Скажімо, листів Плінія Молодшого можна зустріти заміну його, на думку перекладача, синонімами «населення Риму», «римська людність» тощо. Дослідника, який не розуміє давньогрецького чи латинського лінгвістичного контексту цих термінів, такі переклади безнадійно дезорієнтують, вводять у спокусу нестримної модернізації. Приклади можна множити. У своєму перекладі білінгві Нікомахової етики Арістотеля я поряд з кожним терміном наводжу давньогрецький відповідник, часто супроводжуючи його і коментарями відповідних перекладів іншими мовами, у тому числі новогрецькою мовою. Новогрецька дозволяє зрозуміти історію вжитку історичних термінів, етичних категорій тощо, зміни смислів, що в них приховані. Після довгих десятиліть забуття давньогрецької мови на історичному факультеті Київського національного університету імені Тараса Шевченка ми відновили викладання давньогрецької мови для студентів кафедри історії стародавнього світу та середніх віків. Заохочуємо їх і до вивчення мови новогрецької. Кілька наших студентів здобували стипендії для її вивчення в університетах сучасної Елади. Ця практика буде продовжена і в майбутньому. Принаймні, ми на це сподіваємося дуже. Евхаристополі, я тин просохі сас.
Thank you very much, Professor Stavik. And ευχαριστούμε πάρα πολύ. We haven't prepared an English translation, but probably we will provide the English text because you had Greek translation here while speaking, so we were able to read the Greek text, so it's not now, I mean, we don't have to read the English translation right now. We had the Greek text, but we are going to distribute the English translation to our SLE members with the video. We hope, ελπίζουμε πολύ σύντομα να είστε εδώ. Ήσασταν για προγράμματα του διδασκαλίου στο παρελθόν με το Fiespa και το ΙΚΙ, πολύ σημαντικά προγράμματα και πολύ σημαντική η δουλειά του διδασκαλίου που έχει πραγματικά βοηθήσει και στη σύνδεση της Ελλάδας και του Ελληνικού Πανεπιστημίου με την Ουκρανία και το Ουκρανικό Πανεπιστήμιο. Δεν ξέρω αν υπάρχει κάποια ερώτηση ή κάτι να...
Unfortunately, I don't have enough enough experience for speaking English. Please translate me, please, Ukrainian, please.
Так, дуже дякуємо, шановний Віктор Володимирович, за вашу доповідь, цікаву доповідь. І ми сподіваємось, що ви приїдете в Грецію і зможете взяти участь, можливо, в програмі ТІЕСПА, в програмі для викладачів, для філологів, для істориків, і ми зможемо продовжувати далі також спілкування. І питання, якщо є якісь питання. Do you have questions? Мабуть, немає питань. There is no question. We have question.
Добрий день, Віктор Володимирович. Дійсно, сьогоднішня ваша тема, вона була надзвичайно цікава, актуальна. І справді, давньогрецька мова, вона є дуже важливою для студентів, саме українських студентів. Я, як випускниця кафедри класичної філології, так, я знаю, як не знати Гомера, не читати його в оригіналі, це для викладача, для перекладача це дійсно трагедія. І тому, дякуючи вам, дякуючи нашим викладачам, які знали давньогрецьку мову, які мене нею навчили, дійсно я можу це читати Гомера і інших давньогрецьких авторів в оригіналі читати своїм студентам, незважаючи на те, що в нас в КПІ давньогрецька мова не вивчається, але тим не менше ми їм такі невеличкі екскурси в минуле даємо. Дякую вам величезне.
Спасибо вам.
Let's have the translation.
Спасибо.
To English or...
Και μια σύντομη μετάφραση στα ελληνικά. Χάρη στον κύριο καθηγητά έχουμε δυνατότητα να διαβάζουμε από το πρωτότυπο αρχαία ελληνικά κείμενα, γιατί είναι αδιανόητο οι καθηγητές που διδάσκουν αρχαίο πολιτισμό να μην γνωρίζουν αρχαία ελληνικά και να μην μπορούν να τα διαβάσουν στους φοιτητές στο πανεπιστήμιο. Οπότε είναι πολύ ευχάριστο ότι υπάρχει αυτή η δυνατότητα και αυτό εμπνέει ακόμα περισσότερο την εκμάθηση και αρχαίων ελληνικών και νέων ελληνικών.
Thank you very much again. Ευχαριστούμε πάρα πολύ και ελπίζουμε σύντομα να είσαστε εδώ, στην Αθήνα.
Ευχαριστώ πολύ.
Και ευχαριστώ πάρα πολύ, κύριο Νίκο, και να έχω αυτή την ευκαιρία να παρουσιάζω μπροστά σας. Να παρουσιάζω στα ελληνικά, προσπαθώ να κάνω αυτή την παρουσίαση στα ελληνικά και οι συναδελφές μου έχουν μετάφραση στα ουκρανικά και ελπίζω όλα θα γίνει καλά. Η Ελλάδα έχει μια πλούσια κοινή ιστορία με την Ουκρανία. Σήμερα θα ήθελα να σας παρουσιάσω τα πιο σημαντικά στάδια της κοινής μας ιστορίας. για να σας πω πού και πώς ζούσαν οι Έλληνες στο έδαφος της Ουκρανίας από την αρχαία χρόνια μέχρι σήμερα. Οι Έλληνες εμφανίστηκαν στα έδαφη της Ουκρανίας το 9ο αιώνα π.Χ. Η πρώτη αποικία στο έδαφος της Ουκρανίας εμφανίστηκε το 647 π.Χ. από νησί Μπερεζань. Κατά το 15ο αιώνα π.Χ. οι πόλεις Θεοδοσία, Φαναγορία, Γοργίπα, Γερμονάσα κτλ. Εμφανίστηκαν στη Χερσόνησο, Κέρτς και Ταμань. Και η πόλη Χερσόνησος βρίσκονται στη δυτική ακτή της Κριμαίας, η Τύρα και η Νικόνη στις ακτές του εκβολών του Δνίστερου και η Όλβια στο στόμιο του Νότιου Μπούχ. Οι Έλληνες αποικοί έφεραν μαζί τους στα νέα έδαφη της παραδοσιακή για την Ελλάδα μορφή οικονομικής και πολιτικής οργανώσεις της κοινωνίας. Ανάλογα με την κυριαρχή πολιτική δύναμη, οι δημοκρατίες ήταν οι αριστοκρατικές, για παράδειγμα σαν Τύρα και Κερκινητίδα, ή δημοκρατικές, Όλβια και Χερσόνησος, και ήταν το βασιλέο του Βοσπόρου, ήταν η μόνη μοναρχία μεταξύ των αρχαίων πόλεων. Ελληνικές πόλεις στην Ουκρανία υπήρχαν μέχρι 70 χρόνια του 4ου αιώνα μετά Χριστού και εξαφανίστηκαν κάτω από τη χτυπίσματα των Γοθών και Ούνων. Μόνο οι δύο πόλεις, μόνο η Χερσόνησος και η Παντικαπέη, επέζησαν, οι οποίες αργότερα έγιναν μέρος της Βυζαντινής ιστορίας, αυτοκρατορίας. Η ιστορία των Έλληνων οικισμών στη Νότια Ουκρανία είναι η ιστορία των προγόνων πολλών Έλληνων της Ουκρανίας. Βεβαιώνει ότι οι Έλληνες που ζουν στην Ουκρανία για περισσότερα από 2.000 χρόνια συμβάλλουν της ανάπτυξη της χωρίς με τις δραστηριότητες τους. Εκτός από τις ακτές της Μαύρης Θάλασσας, Έλληνες ζούσαν και σε άλλα μέρη της Ουκρανίας. Και τώρα να μιλήσουμε για δυτική πλευρά της Ουκρανίας, για πόλη στη δυτική πλευρά, το Λьвів. Στα μέσα 16ου αιώνα το Λьвів, που ιδρύθηκε το 13ο αιώνα, έγινε το πολιτιστικό και οικονομικό κέντρο της Δυτικής Ουκρανίας. Έρχονταν εδώ εμπόροι και αποίκοι από παντού, μεταξύ των οποίων και Έλληνες που ασχολούνταν με τον εμπόριο. Πουλούσαν διαφορετικά αγαθά στις αγορές της πόλης και είχαν συνεχείς και στενούς δεσμούς με πολυαριθμά εργοστάσια στην Ευρώπη και στην Ασία. Ιδιαίτερα μεγάλη εμβέλεια απέκτησε το εμπόριο κρασιού από τα ελληνικά νησιά. Για παράδειγμα από την Κρήτη, Χίος και Ρόδος, το οποίο είχε μεγάλη ζήτηση από τους κατοίκους του Λьвів και όχι μόνο εξαγόνταν σε Πολωνία, Ουγγαρία, Λιτουανία και άλλες χώρες σε αυτή την πλευρά, Δυτική Ευρώπη. Οι Έλληνες του Λьвів μαζί με τους Ουκρανούς ίδρυσαν το 16ο αιώνα την αδελφότητα, την ελληνική αδελφότητα του Σταυροπηγείων. Μεταξύ των ιδρύτων της ήταν ο Κωνσταντίνος Κορονιάκτος και άλλος Έλληνας, ο Μιχάλης Αρφάνης Μαρτένης, οι οποίοι ήταν οι πρεσβύτεροι κτήτορες, σαν πρεσβύτεροι του ναού. Σε εκκλησιαστικά έγγραφα του 1579 αναφέρονται οι Έλληνες κατοίκων της πόλης Μάρκο Γρέчин και Σάβα Γρέчин. Πολλοί στην αδελφότητα αυτοί ήταν Έλληνες. Τον επόμενο αιώνα ο αριθμός των Ελλήνων στο Λβίβ αυξάνεται. Εκλέγονται σε σημαντικές θέσεις της πόλης. Η αδελφότητα των Σταυροπηγιών φρόντισε για την εκπαίδευση και την υπήρξη της Εκκλησίας, της Ορθόδοξης Εκκλησίας. Το 1586 ιδρύθηκε Ελληνοσλαβικό σχολείο στο Λβίβ. Αυτή η αδελφότητα Σταυροπηγιών υποστήριξε από τον πρίντσιπα Οστρόσκι και τον Γέτμαν Σαγαϊδачний. Ο Έλληνας Αρσένій Γελασόνσκι έγινε ο πρώτος δάσκαλος και πρίτανη του αυτό το σχολείο. Υπό την επιβλέψη της αδελφότητας άνοιξε τυπογραφείο. Το έγινε 1588, όπου τυπώνονταν όχι μόνο εκκλησιάστικα, αλλά και κλασικά βιβλία. Κλασικά και κοσμικά βιβλία. Εκδόθηκε το σχολικό βιβλίο, επίσης το τίτλο ήταν «Γραμματική και καλή ρήματος ελληνοσλαβενικού λαού». Και το τελευταίο έκδοση στα ελληνικά κυκλοφορήσε το 1633 του μελέτη Πηγά. Η ελληνική κοινότητα στο Λβίβ δεν ήταν ομογενή. Το μεγαλύτερο μέρος του αποτελούνταν από εμπόρους, περισσότερους εμπόρους. Οι Έλληνες έμποροι συνέβαλαν στην συνεχή συναλλαγή των καλύτερων δείγματων υλικού και πνευματικού πολιτισμού μεταξύ της Κωνσταντινούπολης, του Κίεβου και του Λβίβ. Οι Έλληνες έφεραν εμπορεύματα από τα νησιά της Ανατολικής Μεσόγειου και την Κωνσταντινούπολη, στα λιμάνια του πόλεων Ρενή και Κιλία. Από εκεί Έλληνες έμποροι προσέβαλαν μεταφορές και μετέφεραν πράγματα, εμπορεύματα με βαγόνια στο Καμ'янець-Подільський και μετά στο Λβίβ. Οι Έλληνες Κωνσταντίνος Κορνιάκτος έπαιξε σημαντικό ρόλο στη ζωή του Λβίβ. Αυτός γεννήθηκε στο Ρέτυμνο, στη Κρήτη. Η οικογένειά του ήρθε στο Λβίβ του 16ου αιώνα και ο Κορνιάκτος ήταν έμπορος επίσης. Είχε εκτεταμένες σχέσεις με την Οθωμανική Αυτοκρατορία και προμήθεσε αγαθά στη Μολδαβία, Γερμανία, σε διαφορετικές χώρες. Ήταν γνωστός φιλάνθρωπος, έχτηκε το κτίριο, το σπίτι, будинок Κορνιάκτα στα ουκρανικά, σπίτι Κορνιάκτου και το πύργο Κορνιάκτου, μπάστα Κορνιάκτα. Και τώρα, αν έρθετε στο Λβίβ, μπορείτε να δείτε αυτά τα κτίρια. Διαθέσει κεφαλαία για τη κατασκέψη και συντήρηση εκκλησιών στο Λβίβ, σχολείων και νοσοκομείων. Εκπαιδευτικές δραστηριότητες στο Λβίβ πραγματοποιήθηκαν από τον Έλληνα, τον Γεδεώνας Μπαλαμπάνης. Αυτός ήταν επίσκοπο του Λβίβ και ζουν το 1569-1607. Ίδρυσε τυπογραφία σε αυτή τη δυτική πλευρά, σε δύο πόλεις στη δυτική πλευρά της Ουκρανίας. Άλλος Έλληνας, ο Αλέξης Μπαλαμπάνης, στο Λьβύβ, έμεινε στο Λьβύβ, ήταν από τα Γιάννενα και βοήθησε οικονομικά τις εκκλησίες του Λьβύβ. Τον 17ο αιώνα ο αριθμός των Ελλήνων στο Λьβύβ αυξάνεται πάλι. Ο γέτμαν Μπογдан Χμельницький υποστήριξε με κάθε τρόπο τους Έλληνες της Ουκρανίας. Οι Έλληνες υπηρέτησαν στον στρατό του Χμельницький. Έγιναν και κοζάκι. Η ελληνική γλώσσα στην Ουκρανία χρησιμοποιήθηκε για επιχειρηματική δραστηριότητα, στην διακριτική πρακτική, στο δικαστικό σώμα και στη λατρεία. Η ελληνική γλώσσα, η λογοτεχνία, η φιλοσοφία, η ρητορική, η μουσική και θεατρική τέχνη έγιναν σημαντικό συστατικό του ουκρανικού εκπαιδευτικού συστήματος από τα πρώτα σχολεία του Ορθόδοξης αδελφότητας και κολέγια στο Κίεβο, στο Чернігів, στο Λьвів, μέχρι τα οικογραφία και τα κλασικά γυμνάσια μέχρι του 19ου αιώνα. Στα μέσα του 17ου αιώνα ένα σημαντικός αριθμός Ελλήνων έμπορων εμφανίστηκε στο Λьвів, οι οποίοι σχημάτισαν ένα νέο κύμα μετανάστασης και μπόρεσαν να επισματεύσουν οργανικά στο περιβάλλον του Λьвів. Οι δραστηριότητες της ελληνικής κοινότητας του Λьвів συνέβαλαν στην πνευματική ενώπιση Ελλήνων και Ουκρανών. Και τώρα θα πάμε στη σημερινή πρωτεύουσα της Ουκρανίας, στη δική μου πόλη, Κίεβο, το Κίεβο, και να μιλήσουμε λίγο για τους Έλληνες στο Κίεβο. Η ευνοϊκή γεωγραφική θέση της πόλης στο σταυροδρόμι των εμπορικών δρόμων τη μετάτρεψε σε κέντρο διαμετακομιστικού εμπόριου. Μεταξύ των εμπόριων που αργόζονταν στο Κίεβο υπήρξαν και πολλοί Έλληνες. Η κυρία αγορά της πόλης βρίσκονται στο Поділ. Είναι μια περιοχή, πολύ γνωστή περιοχή, κοντά στο ποτάμι, στο Δνіпро ποτάμι, στο Κίεβο. Εκεί δημιουργήθηκαν εμπορικές αυλές, απικίες για ξένους εμπόριους. Όχι μόνο για Έλληνες, αλλά μία από αυτές τις αυλές ήταν και η ελληνική. Εκτός από το εμπόριο, οι Έλληνες του Κиєву ασχολούνταν με τη ροπτική, τη γουνοπιά, την παραγωγή μεταξίου και άλλα πράγματα. Το 1724 οι Έλληνες Στепан Μιχайлов και Ιβάν Ντερей άνοιξαν 2 εργοστάσια παραγωγής μεταξίου στο Κίεβο. Το 1725 ιδρύθηκε ένα κρατικό εργοστάσιο μεταξίου, το οποίο το 1787 παραδόθηκε στον Έλληνα Βασίλ Καπνίστ, πολύ γνωστός Έλληνας. Οι Έλληνες της πόλης ήταν ιδιοκτικές επιχειρήσεων του εργοστάσιων με Φυσίνγα Καρακός and Company, του καπνεργοστάσιο και του τυπογραφίων. Επιτρέπουν στις Έλληνες αδελφότητες να έχουν σπίτια. Σπίτια φιλοξενούν σαν ξενοδοχείο. Έλληνες μετανάστες εγκαταστάθηκαν κυρίως στο Ποδήλ, όπως εγώ είπα. Το 1738 οι Έλληνες έβαλαν άδεια να χτίζουν την ελληνική εκκλησία στο Ποδήλ, εκκλησία της Άγιας Εκατερίνη. Ταυτόχρονα, όταν έβαλαν τα θεμέλια της εκκλησίας, οι Έλληνες ανώθηκαν στην ελληνική αδελφότητα του Κίεβου. Και το 1748 η εκκλησία έπηχθε στο όρος Σινά και μετατρέπτηκε σε ελληνικό μοναστήρι. Μέσα στο Κίεβο, σε αυτή την περιοχή Ποδήλ, ήταν ελληνικό μοναστήρι. Τα κορυφαία εκπαιδευτικά ιδρύματα της πόλης, ίδιος η Ακαδημία Κиєво-Могила, διδάσκαν και την ελληνική γλώσσα, την ιστορία, αρχαία ελληνική ιστορία. Είχαν στενές επιστημονικές επαφές με τους Έλληνες και Έλληνες δίδασκαν εδώ. Η ιστορία πολλών πλούσιων ελληνικών οικογένειων συνδυέται με το Κίεβο. Και τώρα θα ήθελα να μιλήσω για μια οικογένεια του Κωνσταντίνου Υψηλάντη. Αυτός ήταν ο μεγάλος δραγωμάνος της Οθωμανικής Αυτοκρατορίας και ιδιοκτήτης που ηγεμονών των Μολδαβία και Δουνάβη και Μολδαβία και Βλάχια. Τρέχοντας να φύγει από το διωγμό των Τούρκων, το 1807 και έφτασε στο Κίεβο και αγόρασε ένα σπίτι εκεί. Κάποια επεισόδια της ζωής του Κωνσταντίνου Υψηλάντη στο Κίεβο χρησιμοποίησε ο συγγραφέας Ντουμάς στον μυθιστόρημα «Ο Κομίστο του Μοντε Κρίστο». Το σπίτι του Κωνσταντίνου Υψηλάντη βρίσκεται σε άλλη περιοχή, στο κέντρο της πόλης, στο Πετσέρσκ. Και τώρα υπάρχει αυτό το κτίριο, αυτό το σπίτι. Είναι αρχιτεκτονικό μνημείο και βρίσκεται από προστασία. Ο Κωνσταντίνος Υψηλάντης είπε για το γιο του «Γε μου, μην ξεχνάς ποτέ ότι οι Έλληνες μετά την απελευθέρωση από την τουρκοκρατία πρέπει να βασίζονται μόνο στον εαυτό τους». Αυτά τα λόγια έγιναν ένα είδος πολιτικής διαθήκης του Κωνσταντίνου. Πέθανε Κωνσταντίνος Υψηλάντης το 1816 στο Κίεβο επίσης και η οικογένεια έζησε στο Κίεβο για κάποια χρονικό διάστημα και μετά μετακόμισαν σε διαφορετικά μέρη. Τον 19ο αιώνα 98 Έλληνες ζούσαν στο Κίεβο, αλλά αυτό μόνο σύμφωνα με την επίσημη απογραφή. Αλλά ανεπίσημα ήταν 450 άτομα στο Κίεβο μόνο. Διάσημοι Έλληνες του Κίεβου είναι κυβερνήτες του Κίεβου Іван Φοντοκλей, Μιχайло Καντακάζη, Λевко Томаро και άλλοι. Πολλές καθηγητές στο Πανεπιστήμιο Αγίου Володимир Πανεπιστήμιο του Κиєву. Τώρα αυτό το πανεπιστήμιο είναι Εθνικό Πανεπιστήμιο του Κиєву, τώρα Шевченко Εθνικό Πανεπιστήμιο. πολλούς καθηγητές, ελληνικές καθηγητές, επίσης ήταν στο Κίεβο. Είναι Μικόλα Μπερναρντός, ιστορικός και δάσκαλος Φεοκτής Χαρταχάη, φιλόσοφος και ψυχολόγος Γεώργη Τσελπάνοφ, ποιητής Дем'ян Багадίτσα και άλλους. Οι Έλληνες στο Κίεβο ασχολήθηκαν με φιλανθρωπικό έργο, αποδέχτηκαν την υπηκιότητα και εκτάχθηκαν στην κοινωνία όπου ενώσαν ως πληρές πολίτες. Και τώρα θα πάμε λίγο σε άλλη περιοχή, στο Χερσόν και Μικολάїв. Το 1778 χτίστηκε η νέα πόλη Χερσόνα. Σε αυτή συγκροτίστηκε αμέσως η ελληνική κοινότητα της πόλης. Εμφανίστηκε το κτίριο του Έλληνα μαγίστρου και η ελληνική εκκλησία της Άγιας Σοφίας. Το 1780 οι Έλληνες έφεραν για πρώτη φορά εμπορεύματα στην Χερσόνα με τα πλοία τους. Κάποιον από αυτούς επιστρέψαν σπίτι τους και κάποιον έμειναν για να ζήσουν για πάντα στη Χερσόνα. Το 1792 ήρθε εδώ ο Έλληνας έμπορος Γρηγόρη Μαραζλή, ο οποίος προέβλεψε ένα λαμπρό εμπορικό μέλλον για τον περιοχή και άρχισε να ανοίγει εμπορικές επιχειρήσεις στο Χερσόν. Στην αρχή 19ου αιώνα η ελληνική κοινότητα συγκροτήθηκε και στην άλλη πόλη, στο Μικολάїв. Το 1813 η ελληνική Ορθόδοξη Εκκλησία του Αγίου Νικολάου χτίστηκαν στο Μικολάїв. Οι Έλληνες του Νότου εμπορεύονταν κυρίως σιτηρά και λέγονταν ότι οι Έλληνες μονοπολούσαν αυτή τη κατεύθυνση των εμπορίων στην Ευρώπη, στην όλη Ευρώπη. Η μοίρα της ελληνικής οικογένειας του Αρκά, πολύ γνωστή οικογένεια του Αρκά, συνδέεται με τον Μικολάїв. Ο Ανδρέας Αρκάς έφτασε στην πόλη στα τέλη του 18ου αιώνα, όταν η πόλη μόλις άρχισε να χτίζεται. Και διάστηκε κλασικές γλώσσες, αρχαία ελληνικά και λατινικά, και ιστορία στη σχολή εκεί, στο Μικολάїв. Και ο έγγονος του Ανδρέα Αρκά, Μικόλα Αρκάς, έγινε πολύ διάσημος Ουκρανός συνθέτης και ιστορικός. Και τώρα πάμε λίγο πάνω στο Χάρκοβο. Και οι Έλληνες εμφανίζονται σε αυτή την περιοχή από την αρχές του 18ου αιώνα. Το 18ο αιώνα στην Ουκρανία εγκαταστάθηκαν γνωστές ελληνικές οικογένειες. Καπνιστές, Καράζιν, Καντακούζιν και άλλες. Ο Βασίλ Καπνίστ ήταν ένας από τους πλουσιότερους και γνωστούς Έλληνες στην Ουκρανία. Ο απογόνος του Βασίλ Βασίλοβич Καπνίστ έγινε συγγραφέας και πολύ δημόσιο πρόσωπο. Ο Βασίλ Καράζιν, μецενάτ Βασίλ Καράζιν, έγινε γνωστός και για τις εκπαιδευτικές του δραστηριότητες, και το Πανεπιστήμιο του Χάρκοβο άνοιξε με το κεφαλία του, με την στήριξη του, το 1807. Και θα πάμε στο Οδυσσό. Το 1795 το χωριό Χατζιμπέι μετανομάστηκαν σε Οδυσσό. Πριν τιμήν της αρχαίας πόλης της Όδυσσο. Μέχρι τότε στο Χατζιμπέι υπήρχαν δύο συνοικίες, σε των οποίων η μία ήταν ελληνική, όπου έμεναν οι οικογένειες Ραφτόπουλο, Γοργούλη, Σταμάτη, Λαμπρού και άλλων. Το 1795 έφτασαν και άλλοι 17 ελληνικές οικογένειες εμπόρων από το Κωνσταντινούπολη, από το Χερσόνα και άλλες πόλεις, όχι μόνο από την Ελλάδα και τουρκική αυτοκρατορία και επίσης από την ουκρανική πλευρά. Απολάχτηκαν από τη καταβολή φορών για 10 χρόνια, χορηγήθηκαν δάνεια για ανέγερση κατοίκων. Από το σύνολο του πληθυσμού της πόλης, το 10% ήταν Έλληνες στην Οδυσσό. Οι Έλληνες δημιουργήθηκαν το δικό τους δημοτικό σύμβολο, εδώ. Οι Έλληνες έμποροι ήταν οι κύριοι μεξάδοντες στο εμπόριο μεταξύ της Ρωσικής Αυτοκρατορίας και Δυτικής Ευρώπης. Ένας από τους τομείς της ελληνικής δραστηριότητας ήταν στην Οδυσσό ήταν συγγνώμη, είναι πολύ δύσκολη λέξη για μένα. Ναυπηγειοπισκευστική. Ναι. Ελπίζω καταλαβαίνετε. Οι πιο γνωστές ελληνικές εταιρείες του Νότιου είναι ο εμπορικός οίκος των αδερφών Ράλι, η εμπορικού οίκος Ροδοκανάκη, Μαυροκορδάτο και Ιγκλέζη. Στους 19ο αιώνα υπήρχαν περίπου 1.500 Έλληνες στην Οδυσσό. Και τελευταία άλλη περιοχή που ζούσαν Έλληνες στην Ουκρανία είναι Νίζεν. Είναι μια μικρή πόλη στη βόρεια Ουκρανία, κοντά στη πόλη Чернігів. Και σε αυτά τα μέσα του 14ου αιώνα ο Νίζεν έπαιξε το πάρα πολύ σημαντικό ρόλο το συνοραϊκού φρούριο για να προστατέψει από τις επιδρομές των Τατάρων. Η πόλη γρήγορα μετατράπηκε σε εμπορικό κέντρο. Στο Νίζεν τα εμπορικά συμφέροντα των Έλληνων ήταν εμπορικά συμφέροντα των Έλληνων. Συνέκλεισαν κυρίως επειδή έβρισκαν αυθόνες ευκαιρίες για να πωλήσουν τα αγαθά τους εδώ, στο Νίζεν. Οι Έλληνες μετανάστες υποστηρίξαν έργα από την κυβέρνηση, από την Ουκρανική κυβέρνηση. Έτσι το 1657 ο Γέτμαν Μπογδάν Χμελνίτσκι παραχώρησε το δικαιώματα, αφορολόγησαν έμποροι στο έδαφος της Ουκρανίας στους Έλληνες έμπορους. Για παράδειγμα, Παυλό και Στεφάν Γιουρκέβιτς και μετά και για τους άλλους. Η ελληνική κοινότητα του Νίζεν ζούσε σύμφωνα με τους εσωτερικές της νόμους. Ο Χμελνίτσκι έβλεπε το εμπόριο ως σημαντική πηγή αναπλήρωση του κρατικού ταμείου και έγγυση για την ανάπτυξη της ευμερίας της πόλης. Οι διαδοχοί του Χμελνίτσκι, του Γέτμαν, συνεχίζαν όλο αυτό που έκανε ο Χμελνίτσκι, αυτό το πρόγραμμα για τους Έλληνες στο Νίζεν, στην πόλη. Η ελληνική αδελφότητα του Νίζεν ιδρύθηκε το 1687 και έλαβε νομικό καθεστώς το 1696. Ιδρυτής την ήταν ο ιεράς Χριστοφόρ ή Χριστοδούλ Δημήτριεφ. Η Νίζεν υπήρξε κέντρο του ελληνικού πολιτισμού στην επικρατεία της Ουκρανίας για μεγάλο χρόνο διάστημα. Το 1689 επισκέφθηκε την πόλη η αρχιμανδρίτης Διονύσης και εξαιρετική μορφή του ελληνικού πολιτισμού. Χάρη στους Έλληνες εμπόρους, το Νίζεν μετατράπηκε σε ένα από τα σημαντικά κέντρα εμπόρια στην Ουκρανική επικράτεια. Οι συνθήκες στις οποίες ζούσαν οι Έλληνες στην πόλη οδηγούσαν όλο και περισσότερο κόσμο εκεί. Ταξιδεύουν κυρίως από την Ήπειρο και από την Μακεδονία. Στα τέλη του 18ου αιώνα η ελληνική κοινότητα στο Νίζεν είχε 8% του σύνολου των κατοίκων της πόλης. Και στην πόλη υπήρχαν περίπου 11.000 άτομα. Τώρα νομίζω δεν υπάρχει τόσο πολλά άτομα, τόσο πολλούς Έλληνες στο Νίζεν. Το Ελληνικό Δημοτικό Συμβούλιο έπαιξε εξωτερικά σημαντικό ρόλο στην οργάνωση της ζωής της ελληνικής κοινότητας. Οι Έλληνες της Ουκρανίας έπαιξαν και συνεχίζουν να διαδραματίζουν σημαντικό ρόλο από την αρχαιότητα. Οι Έλληνες εμπόροι εγκαταστάθηκαν ανέργα σε πόλεις της Ουκρανίας, σε διαφορετικές πόλεις της Ουκρανίας, λαμβάνοντας προνόμια από το κράτος με το μορφή αφορολογήσου εμπόριου κτλ. Δημιουργήσουν αδελφότητες, κοινότητες, βοηθούν στην οικονομική πόλεων, χτίζουν εκκλησίες, σχολεία, χρηματοδοτούν εκπαιδευτικά και πολιτιστικά ιδρύματα. Διατηρούνταν επαφή με την Ελλάδα, συνεχίζουν να συμβάλλουν στον εμποστικό του ουκρανικού πολιτισμού με Έλληνες γλώσσες, παραδόσεις και τα λοιπά και άλλοι. Οι Έλληνες αφομοιώνονται και ενσηματώνονται στην ουκρανική κοινωνία, δραστηριότητες και παραδόσεις, γλώσσα, λογοτεχνία και χορούς. Οι πρώτοι ελληνικοί οικοσμοί στην περιοχή του Δονέτσκ, τώρα λίγο να μιλήσουμε για δύσκολα πράγματα, εμφανίστηκαν την δεκαετία του 1780 μέχρι την εγκαταστάση των Έλληνων από την Κριμαία. Τα έδαφη αυτά δεν είχαν κάποια συγκεκριμένη χρήση. Γλωσσικά, οι Έλληνες του περιοχή του Αζόβ, σε αυτή την πλευρά, περιοχή του Δονέτσκ, χωρίζονταν σε δύο διακριτές ομάδες του τους Ρωμαίους, Ρωμαίοι, που μιλούν ρωμαϊκά, είναι διάλεκτο της ελληνικής γλώσσας, είναι μαριουπολικοί διάλεκτες, και τους Ουρούμ, των οποίων η γλώσσα ανήκει στην ομάδα του τουρκικών γλωσσών. Ωστόσο, όλοι οι Έλληνες της Αζωφικής, της περιοχής του Ντονέτσκ, ανεξάρτητα από τη γλωσσική τους καταγωγή, είναι Ορθόδοξοι και θεωρούν τους εαυτούς τους Έλληνες. Διαστηρούν έντονη ελληνική αυτοσυνέντηση και τη μεταδίδουν στους απαγονούς τους. Τώρα, κατά τη διάρκεια του πολέμου, οι πόλεις και τα χώρια της Αζωφικής της περιοχής του Ντονέτσκ καταστράφτηκαν και από τους Ρώσους και είτε εγκαταλεύτηκαν είτε είναι σε κατοχή. Η ιστορία των Έλληνων της Αζωφικής είναι άξια ξεχωριστής ομιλίας. Το παρελθόν, το παρόν και το μέλλον τους είναι στενά συνδεσμένο με την Ουκρανία και με την Ελλάδα και ελπίζω να υπάρχει στο μέλλον η ευκαιρία για μια ξεχωριστή διάλεξη με αυτό το θέμα. Είναι πολύ λίγο τι ήθελα να σας πω σήμερα, αλλά νομίζω να συνεχίζουμε και μετά και να κάνουμε κάτι άλλη διαλέξεις μαζί. Και σας ευχαριστώ πάρα πολύ. Συγγνώμη για τα ελληνικά μου, αλλά ευχαριστώ.
Καλησπέρα σε όλους και ευχαριστώ για την εισήγηση την κυρία Σντανόβιτς, συγγνώμη. Αξίζει ιδιαίτερα συγχαρητήρια γιατί στα παρασκήνια έμαθα ότι μαθαίνει ελληνικά μόλις 6 μήνες. Είναι σωστό αυτό? Τέλος πάντων, συγχαρητήρια. Ερώτηση δεν έχω. Μία μικρή επισήμανση ήθελα να κάνω απλούστατα. Στο τέλος αναφερθήκατε λίγο στους Έλληνες της Μαριούπολης και ως κάτοικος της Μαριούπολης. Τώρα διαμένω στην Ελλάδα 14 χρόνια, αλλά δεν έχει να κάνει. Η πατρίδα μου είναι Μαριούπολη. Συμφωνώ με την άποψή σας ότι για τους Έλληνες της Μαριούπολης και της Αζωφικής περιοχής θα έπρεπε να γίνει μια εκτενέστερη μελέτη, όχι μελέτη, μάλλον εισήγηση, και θα ήταν καλό να ακουστεί εδώ στο πλαίσιο του συνεδρίου σας, να το πούμε έτσι. Δυστυχώς δεν είδα στο πρόγραμμα να αναφέρεται κάτι για τους Έλληνες της Μαριούπολης. Ίσως δεν είναι το θέμα αυτό συγκεκριμένα, αλλά για τους Έλληνες της Μαριούπολης θα μπορούσαμε να μιλάμε ώρες, μέρες ολόκληρες. Είναι τεράστια η παρουσία, ήταν ίσως η τεράστια παρουσία του σήμερα, όπως και προανέφερε η κυρία Ολέσια, η Μαριούπολη έχει καταστραφεί εντελώς, όπως και τα 40 γύρω ελληνικά χωριά, όπου, όπως σωστά επισήμανε επίσης, ομιλούνταν 2 διάλεκτοι, μάλλον δεν είναι 2, ήταν 2, και η ρωμαϊκή γλώσσα είχε 5 υποδιαλέκτους. Το κάθε χωριό μιλούσε δική τη διάλεκτος. Το ξέρω από το πρώτο χέρι, γιατί ήμουνα σε μια ερευνητική ομάδα τέλος πάντων και πηγαίναμε από χωριό και χωριό και πιάναμε τις γιαγιάδες και τους παππούδες που ακόμα μιλούσαν την διάλεκτο και τους καταγραφούσαμε σε μαγνητοφωνάκι και ήταν πολύ ωραία έρευνα. Τώρα αυτά όλα δεν υφίστανται, δεν υπάρχουν, καταστράφηκαν. Οι Έλληνες της Μαριούπολης και της γύρω περιοχής σκορπίστηκαν σε όλο τον κόσμο. Πολύ λίγοι έμειναν στη Μαριούπολη και στα γύρω χωριά και μάλιστα από το... δεν είναι σημερινά γεγονότα, αλλά ξεκίνησε ο πόλεμος το 2014, να μην ξεχνάμε αυτό. Και τα κοντινά χωριά που είναι στην περιοχή του Ντονέτσκ βρέθηκαν πολύ κοντά στην επαφή με την Πειραιά από τους Ρώσους και δεχτήκανε τα πρώτα πλήγματα. Οπότε ο ελληνικός πληθυσμός άρχισε να φεύγει από εκεί από το 2014. Τώρα δεν θέλω να σας κρατήσω άλλο. Απλούστατα ήθελα να επισημάνω τη σημαντική παρουσία της Μαριούπολης και των Ελλήνων, μάλλον της Μαριούπολης, στην προώθηση και στην παιδεία, ελληνική παιδεία στην περιοχή της Αζωφικής θάλασσας. Ευχαριστώ πολύ. Συγγνώμη κιόλας για το χρόνο σας. Σας κράτησα.
Άλλη ερώτηση ή κάτι άλλο? Νομίζω ότι είμαστε και λίγο εκτός χρόνου, οπότε μάλλον θα πρέπει να τρέξουμε. Ευχαριστούμε πάρα πολύ, Ολέσια, για τη διάλεξη.
Пані Лесі, дякую за надзвичайно цікаву розповідь і взагалі про такі глибокі знання про Грецію, про Україну. І дійсно з вашої доповіді бачу, що греки-українці такі досить миролюбиві люди, які вміли вживатися між собою. Мене цікавить таке питання. Скажіть, будь ласка, до повноцінного вторгнення взагалі от греки в Україні, вони знаємо, де вони проживали. Скажіть, будь ласка, чи мали вони можливість вивчати грецьку мову, чи мали діти ходити в грецькі дитячі садочки, школи, чи були бібліотеки? Тому що, наприклад, я якось з цим ніколи так глибоко не цікавилася. Це в мене перше запитання. А от друге, знаєте, от в мене саме з етимології грецької. Ми знаємо, що в українській мові, українській традиції є такі дуже багато прізвищ, які пов'язані саме з діяльністю людини. Наприклад, там швець, бондар, книж, столяр, рибак і так далі. От, будь ласка, у вас було сьогодні дуже багато таких от прізвищ грецьких. От мені просто цікаво, чи, мабуть же так, і в греків є такі прізвища, які означають от саме от те, що в українській мові.
Так, дякую, πάνη Ірино. Δύο ερωτήσεις ήταν από την κυρία Ειρήνη. Πρώτα, αν υπήρχε πριν ξεκίνησε ο πόλεμος, μεγάλο πόλεμος στην Ουκρανία, αν υπήρχε κάποια σχολεία στην Ουκρανία, ελληνικά σχολεία, νηπιαγωγεία, νομίζω κάτι που Έλληνες μπορούν να μαθαίνουν ελληνικά, γλώσσα και άλλα πράγματα από την Ελλάδα. Και δεύτερο, για επώνυμα, για ελληνικά επώνυμα. Γιατί, για παράδειγμα, στην Ουκρανία υπάρχουν πολλά επώνυμα, σαν επαγγελματικά επώνυμα. Και αν υπάρχει και στην Ελλάδα αυτό. Για δεύτερη ερώτηση, μπορώ να απαντήσω στα ουκρανικά και μετά να μεταφράσουμε. Отже, на перше питання відповім. Я можу сказати про Київ точно, тому що в Києві, наприклад, є дві школи, де вивчають грецьку мову. Одна школа називається Елада. Там викладають грецьку мову як першу іноземну мову. І ця школа має дуже гарні стосунки, дуже такі сильні традиції, відносини з Грецією, з грецькими викладачами, які приїздили. І зараз також. Зараз, можливо, не приїздять, але школа працює. І їй вже багато років, має певні традиції. І інша школа в Києві, там вивчають грецьку мову як другу іноземну мову. Тобто є така... Можуть греки, які живуть з грецького походження, можуть вивчати. Я думаю, що на Донеччині, там, де більше проживало греків, до повномасштабного вторгнення було набагато більше, тому що я знаю, що в Маріуполі був центр, який випускали підручники для шкіл, грекомовні підручники. І було багато, до речі, є в містах, які я назвала, які не назвала, де є менші групи греків, етнічних греків, проживають той же, наприклад, Житомир. Також там є грецькі громади, були грецькі громади. Зараз вони об'єднались в таку велику громаду греків України, тобто це об'єднались всі. І до того, до війни, до початку війни, вони проводили дуже багато різних заходів і в Україні, і з греками, і виїздили в Грецію. Тобто так, була така можливість. Щодо другого питання з приводу прізвищ, ну, чесно кажучи, мені так трішки складно відповісти на це питання поки що. Я не філолог, так, я не вивчала ці питання, але те, що я бачу, те, що я можу сказати, то так, дуже багато з професій також ми бачимо прізвища, які походять від професії якоїсь. І Діана, на мой voices, Ευχαριστώ πάρα πολύ.
Я б хотіла, щоб на запитання про школи грецької мови, грецькі школи відповіла Анна Павлова, тому що вона працювала в Маріупольському державному університеті і дійсно має кваліфікацію в цьому питанні. І я ще б хотіла, щоб вона це зробила і грецькою, бо серед нас багато греків, які про цю історію також не знають. Θα ήθελα να κάνει ένα σχόλιο μικρό Άννα Παύλοβα, η οποία είναι μεταξύ μας και δούλευε στο Εθνικό Πανεπιστήμιο της Μαριούπολης σχετικά με τα σχολεία ελληνικά. Γιατί δυστυχώς μάθαμε ότι στην Ελλάδα δεν ξέρουν πάρα πολλά για την κατάσταση της ελληνικής γλώσσας που υπήρχε στην Ουκρανία. Ευχαριστώ.
Ευχαριστώ, συγγνώμη για την παρέμβαση και πάλι. Εντελώς τυχαία βρέθηκα σήμερα εδώ κατόπιν της πρόσκλησης της φίλης μου της Διάννα. Το θέμα αυτό με πονάει πάρα πολύ, γιατί επί 10 χρόνια δίδασκα στο Πανεπιστήμιο της Μαριούπολης και ήμουν κοσμήτορας της του τμήματος νεοελληνικής φιλολογίας, όπου κάθε χρόνο σπούδασαν περίπου 350 φοιτητές. Η πρώτη τους γλώσσα ήταν ελληνικά, σπούδαζαν δηλαδή ελληνική φιλολογία, καθώς και σε άλλα τμήματα και σε άλλες σχολές, όπως είναι στην αγγλική φιλολογία, όπως είναι στην ιστορία κτλ. Υπήρχαν επίσης φοιτητές που επέλεγαν τα ελληνικά ως δεύτερη ή ακόμα και ως τρίτη ξένη γλώσσα. Υπήρχε τεράστια υποστήριξη από το Ουκρανικό κράτος ως προς την στήριξη των ξένων γλωσσών και των γλωσσών των μειοτήτων που διέμεναν στην Ουκρανία. Και μάλιστα στην περιοχή της Αζωφικής θάλασσας διέμεναν περίπου 120 εθνικότητες. Δηλαδή φανταστείτε τον αριθμό των γλωσσών, διαλέκτων, λαλιών, ντοπλολαλιών και οτιδήποτε, που ομιλιόταν μάλλον στην Αζωφική περιοχή. Η ρωσική προπαγάνδα που μας μιλούσε συνέχεια ότι τα ρωσικά καταπιέζονταν στην Ουκρανία, ότι οι γλώσσες των μειοτήτων καταπιέζονταν στην Ουκρανία κτλ. Φυσικά δεν υφίσταται κάτι τέτοιο, διότι συγκεκριμένα στη Μαριούπολη, θα σας πω για τη Μαριούπολη γιατί εκεί έμεινα μέχρι τα 30 μου, και ασχολούμουν συνέχεια με την εκπαίδευση. Τα ελληνικά μάθαιναν όχι μόνο Ελληνόπουλα, δηλαδή ελληνικής καταγωγής άνθρωποι, αλλά επίσης και Ουκρανοί και Ρώσοι και όποιος ήθελε τέλος πάντων. Δεν υπήρχε καμία επιλεκτικότητα στο θέμα αυτό. Οπότε στα γύρω χωριά υπήρχαν αρκετά ελληνικά σχολεία όπου διδασκόταν η ελληνική ως πρώτη ή ως δεύτερη ξένη γλώσσα. Υπήρχε μεγάλη αποστολή από την Ελλάδα, από το Υπουργείο Παιδείας και Θρησκευμάτων της Ελλάδος. Έρχονταν καθηγητές, δάσκαλοι, γυμναστές που μάθαιναν ελληνικούς χορούς, εκπαιδευτικοί κλπ. Βέβαια με τα χρόνια κάπως λιγόστεψε όλο αυτό. Δεν έχει να κάνει όμως, διότι με τα χρόνια παρήγαγε το Πανεπιστήμιο αρκετό αριθμό εκπαιδευτικών και φιλολόγων στην ελληνική γλώσσα που μπορούσε να καλύψει τις θέσεις και μπορούσε να διδάσκει πλέον και Ουκρανοί και Ρώσοι και ελληνικής καταγωγής εκπαιδευτικοί που μπορούσαν να διδάσκουν πλέον ελληνικά σε καινούριες φουρνιές μαθητών και φοιτητών. Οπότε, ναι, η κατάσταση με την ελληνική παιδεία ήταν πάρα πολύ καλή, όχι μόνο στη Μαριούπολη, αλλά και σε όλη την Ουκρανία. Όπως αναφέραμε, υπάρχουν ακόμα και σήμερα μερικά σχολεία στο Κίεβο, διδάσκεται ελληνική στα πανεπιστήμια του Κιέβου, του Λβίβ, της Κριμαίας, που είχαμε τεράστιες διασυνδέσεις με το Ταυρικό Πανεπιστήμιο και μάλιστα διοργάνωναν κάθε χρόνο τις λεγόμενες Ολυμπιάδες, δηλαδή διαγωνίσματα στα ελληνικά, στην ελληνική γλώσσα, ιστορία, μυθολογία κτλ. Γενικώς το κύμα ελληνικό της παιδείας ήταν τεράστιο και υποστηριζόταν από το ελληνικό κράτος ίσως ως καμία άλλη εθνικότητα. Δεν θέλω να πλήξω κανέναν και δεν θέλω να θίξω κανέναν. Αλλά η παρουσία των Ελλήνων στην Ουκρανία ήταν και πιστεύω θα είναι πάρα πολύ σημαντική. Θέλω να πιστεύω ότι οι Έλληνες που έφυγαν σήμερα από την Ουκρανία θα επιστρέψουν και θα ξαναχτίσουμε και τη Μαριούπολη και τα γύρω χωριά. Αυτά εν ολίγης. Αυτά. Ευχαριστώ πολύ.
Thank you very much. Greetings to all of you. I do understand that we are totally out of time, so sorry for this. I will try to not to take your time for long, but I do hope that we will feel Ukraine after this presentation. And I would love to address to the students, because I know that there are students there, and I'm not only the professor of the Faculty of Linguistics, associate professor of the Faculty of Linguistics, but also the head of academic mobility office of the National Technical University of Ukraine, Igor Sikorsky Kyiv Polytechnic Institute. And on behalf of the administration of the university, let me again, one more time, express our wholehearted gratitude for your act of solidarity with Ukraine, with us, with our challenges, and for your warm reception of us here. And my presentation was going to consist from two parts, and first part is more about linguistics, and second part is more about Ukrainian universities at war and our university, what we are doing, what students are doing, because we are alive and we continue, and we have returned to Ukraine, and just to restore, to rebuild Ukraine even during the war and after the war. I will briefly talk about linguistics and we'll talk more about university, if I may, just to compress the time. Okay, you probably know these symbols of Ukraine, you know. Sunflowers, our coat of arms, our rushnik embroidered, famous all over the world. And but what is behind these symbols? I'm sorry, it's not working. Again, okay. What do you know about Ukraine beyond the symbols? What do you, the students? I'm not asking Ukrainians who are present here, but what do you know? Because our cultures have much in common. What do you know about Ukraine? What associations do you have apart from the war? Okay, so please. Not only these pictures, maybe these ones. If we talk about values, widely known, We have lots of values, human values, general values, yeah? We love our motherland and we fight for our motherland right now. Of course, we have animalistic symbols, floristic symbols, and one of them is storks. You know, we believe, sometimes we joke that our children are brought by stork, and it's okay. Like for zoological, our Viburnum, it's famous again with this song. Ой у лузі червона калина. It's now the anthem of this war, and it's now, again, this song is known all over the world, yeah? And our ancestral home, it's our motherland, our father's home, and we, for me, actually, I returned to Ukraine because my father's home is there, and I wanted to be there because my grandfather built it with his own hands. For me, it was one of the reasons to return. And I know how painful it is for those people from Mariupol, from Kherson, from Kharkiv, from other regions of Ukraine who lost their home. It's the most painful. It's like, you know, like you lose the part of your heart. And it's really valuable for us, and that's why we are fighting. Again, we have a lot of floristic symbols, and for example, poppy flower. You know poppy flower about the Remembrance Day, again known from Europe, yeah. But for us, poppy flower is our older symbol, not only related to the First World War, Second World War, but also with our history. It's the symbol of memory, it's a symbol of our generation, it's a symbol of family. And it's well known all over Ukraine, and it's often embroidered at our national costumes. It's a very well known symbol. Again, we also have Easter painted eggs, as many other countries, etc. And this year was remarkable for us because the fight for national heritage was also one. We had one victory the previous year when our borscht, our famous, really famous soup, was included to UNESCO heritage as a world cuisine. So you definitely, when you come to Ukraine, or maybe you can come to you can go to Ukrainian restaurant in any country. I hope in Athens there are also such restaurants. You can order borscht and try this taste of Ukraine because it's really delicious. We have such tradition in Ukraine that every hostess has her own recipe of this dish. And it's very tasty in different parts of Ukraine. It's, you know, like a competition between women who cooks better. Okay, I will skip the concepts, you know, because as promised, because our concept of priority, patriotism and concept of family, they changed with these wartime challenges, and a lot of words came to our usage, and a lot of words received new meanings just due to the wartime, because sometimes alarm was just an alarm of your clock to wake up. Right now we have alarm, you know, when sirens are running, etc. I want to tell you more about a really ancient tradition. You know vyshivanka, maybe. You see me in these clothes, national clothes, but not many people know that vyshivanka, every region of Ukraine, as you see on our map, has its own symbol, has its own code and and paintings of embroidery. And it was even alphabet. There are real scientific research dedicated to the alphabet embroidered in vyshivanka. And young women, when they wanted to get married, they embroidered, like, you know, wishes for their happy destiny, and encoded the different wishes, beliefs, and hopes in the wedding rushniks, because rushnik, like wedding towel, let's say, it was also included in wedding tradition. And now, actually, we restored also this tradition, and there are a lot of softwares, even online, you can try it for free, absolutely. You can encode any word you want in Vyshyvanka style. For example, this is our card we prepared for to the anniversary, to commemorate the anniversary of the war in Ukraine. And we encoded words peace, victory, and Ukraine in this Vyshyvanka style, so you can see how it works in this program, in this software. It's very interesting and very, you know, maybe a new breath of old tradition. And we love to preserve tradition. If you want to learn more about Ukrainian culture, you can just take free online course about Ukraine. It was prepared by the Ukrainian Institute, and it's really very interesting because 10 scientists from different fields of study talk about Ukraine and disseminate the most important facts about Ukrainian history, culture, and that's why I will be brief right now, so you can go to this link. I hope this presentation will be online, so you can use this chance and try and learn more about Ukraine. It's really worth knowing. For example, again, Ukrainian Institute, there is even the recipe of borscht, one of the recipes of borscht, so you can try and cook it at your own kitchen. I would also love to mention some results of the 17th National Survey about the values of Ukraine. So because we have long history, we have old history, and but we still preserve our values. And this survey, which was done during the war, actually in August 2022, showed that the dominant value for the Ukrainian people is kindness. Despite all wartime, all challenges we faced during the history, and for Ukraine it's a constant fight. You know, we have such neighbors that we have to constantly fight for our independence at all the levels, at all the fields, at all the battlefields. And that's, but we preserve this kindness, and that distinguishes us from our neighbors, let's say. Eastern neighbors, I mean, sorry. 3 words according to this survey, 3 words about the future of Ukraine from the point of view of Ukrainians. How do they see, how we Ukrainians see Ukraine in future? So, free. The first and the most often word was free. Then we had blooming, prosperous, peaceful, happy, strong, because we need to be strong. And of course, rich, developed, and united, and European, because we are the European nation, and we preserve European values, and again, fight for them. Again, according to the shift of values, we are open to change. Ukrainian nation is always open to change and has always been open to changes, but for good changes, we protect and we fight for this. I'm sorry for repeating the word fight, because you know the concepts sometimes arise in your mind, and we have this challenge right now. That's why we talk about this, and it's necessary to talk about this some more. So independence, security, and traditionality, they are preserved, and we stand for this. And thank you for standing with us. Now I will briefly talk about the university and our university, because you know a lot of scientists came from KPI, but you don't know what is the university and what do we do. Actually, this university is younger than yours, but not so younger. It was founded in 1898, and it's the largest polytechnic university in Ukraine. Initially, we had 4 faculties: mechanical, chemical, agricultural, and engineering. And if you notice our emblem, so you will see the marks of these first 4 faculties. Our faculty of linguistics is rather young. Actually, we have 25 years old. We are 25 years old, but this year the university has its anniversary of 125 years old. So we are comparatively young, but again, we have a strong school of translation, of technical translation. That's why we are a bit unique in our country, and we have really good school of polytechnic translation. These are famous, maybe you heard such about these people, about Eugene Patton, about Sergei Korolev, about Sikorsky, about Wojciech Sviatoslavich or Kirpichov. They are famous scientists whose names are related, who are the graduates of our university and whose names are related to our history. Actually, this is the map of our campus. We have approximately 22,000 of students, approximately 4,000 of staff members, and large campus, and a lot of activities, and 24 faculties and institutes. So really widespread specialties and fields of study, and it's very important for us. That's why we try to unite students from all the fields of study around different activities, different interesting activities, and very important that we have again also QS rankings, and we are one in the top ones according to employability ranking of 2022. I will skip internalization. Actually, we are right now doing it, and we are constantly establishing new contexts and new relations, and especially what will be maybe more interesting for students, we are doing internalization via students' contacts and via the students' clubs also, and via the students' cooperation, student-to-student cooperation, and I will tell you about it a bit later. So it's before the war. The university looked like this. It's real old building. We sometimes call it Ukrainian Hogwarts, you know. Yeah, really, because we have old buildings with old basements, and sometimes they joke that some basilisks, you know, are there. And we have a lot of competitions, Olympiads, hackathons, and our students actually are also famous all over the world as winners of many prizes. It was the beginning of the war. So you saw the picture. The first picture you see right now, it's not, it's the March of 2022, when everything was speaking in Kyiv. And the students, at the beginning of the war, the approximately 2,000 students were in campus, so they had to be in shelters. They had to withstand that period, and they did it proudly. And that they cooked themselves, they organized the volunteering activities, they fought because, again, there were a lot of challenges at the time. Actually, you know, when I'm in Poland, when we met with Magda in Poland, today for me is a very signing day and very important day, because exactly that day, a year ago, I also evacuated my family, my daughter and my mom, to Poland because of the missile just fell near my house, and that picture is my neighborhood, my own neighborhood. It's famous in Poland because it took some prize in Poland, but for me it's not a prize, it's real pain. And you know, that's our creativity team. We should we teach some musicals with our students right to the anniversary of 120th anniversary of the university, and the musical is about returning of those who fled Ukraine, who left Ukraine to their homeland, to their motherland, I didn't think that time when we were staging it, that it would be so important and soulful right now when to talk about people to return from abroad to Ukraine and for the family to unite, to be restored and to preserve the family values. Right now, we're going to restage it to this anniversary, so it's we hope for the best and fight for it. But it's, you know, like two pictures from different worlds, but again from different dimensions of our life. But we right now combine it. And I announced that I will talk about translators at war, and Zoya talked a lot about translators, history of translation, and fight for independence, and fight for building of nation at the level of translation. Now this fight continues, actually, because when the war began, we are the faculty of translation, actually, faculty of linguistics, we teach translators. And it was extremely important at the very beginning of the war, and to even now, when a year after the war, and the war continues, and the information war continues. We fight fakes. We constantly. We are constantly in this process, and we organized such internet army, as it called. Internet army included IT specialists and also included translators who voluntarily wanted to disseminate the truthful information. Because we have contacts with media, with our media. Without television, without media companies, and we did a lot to disseminate this information. And you can see some of the it's not exceptional list, of course, because there are a lot of resources, but we asked our partners, I wrote a lot also to our international partners and disseminated this information, truthful information, which was translated by our students, by our team members, by our staff, just to spread the truth around the world. Because when you are inside, when you are in Ukraine, you know the truth, you constantly feel this, what is happening, what is going on. When you are outside, and I can compare, because I was abroad, and I have returned already, I returned in August to university, to Ukraine, and continue all my duties, all my tasks from there, but I can compare. When you are abroad, you are more afraid. When you are here, when you are inside, you are not so afraid. You just want to do something and to support those who are there. And it's very important for foreigners just to have this insight. That's why I leave the links here. You can see, and these are some of the stories of the witnesses. I will skip them because it's the works of my students. You know, that semester, summer semester of 2022, I had the course of literary translation. And, you know, we could focus on Chaucer, we could focus on very romantic stories, we could focus on anything, but we couldn't, actually, because it was March of 2022, and nobody could do anything romantic and translate anything romantic. We wanted to translate something very painful, but very important for us to talk about this and to discuss this. And we discussed a lot the situations the stories we had to translate in Facebook, for example, the hardest story. Sometimes you have this short post in Facebook, but you cannot translate it for a week or for several days because your soul is crying and you can't find the words. You know, like when Zelensky had his speech in some of the parliaments, the translator cried when she started to translate. And we discussed a lot because for translators it's also very important to withstand this psychological stress and to perform their tasks properly. And for our students, it was, unfortunately, it was their experience, studying experience, but it's very important to have it and to discuss and to share this experience because it's unique. It's painful, but it's really unique. And these are the stories. I asked them just to write the essays about their experience in war, and some of them, they worked as military translators. They volunteered. Some of them, they were just volunteering, helping people. The others just had to flee just because they were at too risky circumstances. So it depends. Everyone had different situation, but we shared it and we want to share it with the world. And again, right now we are standing and we returned to operation on the 4th of April. We had forced holidays because organization at administrative level, we had to organize it somehow, and we had months of holidays, but nobody wished to have such holidays, you know. It's only the name, but we returned to more or less normal operation, both in synchronous and asynchronous mode, because the students are everywhere, and some students and some lecturers were under shellings, under constant risky conditions, and they didn't have just, you know, time to keep to schedule, keep to timeline or something like this. It was impossible. That's why we operated in both modes, and still we have more flexible attitude to the operation and try to understand what is going on. And right now, you know, this is autumn, and we are still standing, and it is about autumn semester. Our student won the Global Student Prize. Maybe you heard about this. He became the best student in the world. The students organize a lot of different events. The students are soldiers in the army and officers in the army, and a lot of teachers also deliver lectures, for example, from in the breaks, during the breaks from the military service. Actually, it's today's information. If you want to learn more, you can visit what is going on. You can visit this site. Actually, they put it's about tribunal, Putin's tribunal, and the Hague's court, because we gather the information about these crimes as an evidences for future courts. And it's, you know, this is information dated the 7th of March 2023. It's ongoing. You can see that the war hasn't stopped. And that's why we talk about it right now. And we do a lot with students' life and consolidate the students around us. And what is very important for us, and right now I'm coming to the students, if you want, our students are really open for the dialogues, and we establish and create some kind of telecommunication with different universities all over the world. And our students are open for this dialogue. We can discuss a lot of cooperation issues, a lot of problematic issues. For example, with Arizona State University, we discussed the problem of human rights and the problem of gender studies and the problem of psychological support and resilience, because we have a lot of projects dedicated to resilience right now, and it's very important if you want to be the part of this dialogue. For example, you know about the war, you know nothing how to do. I'm sitting here, for example, and I don't know what to do. Okay, you can do something. You can disseminate information. You can create the dialogue. You can do anything you want. If you are creative, we can find the way. And these dialogues are really supported and really very welcome, because we create international projects together at students level, students to students level, and we really welcome our international partners to cooperate and to organize such event. For example, an example of such cooperation is our Techno Art Festival. This year, it was previous year actually. It was dedicated to the restoration, renaissance, reconstruction of Ukraine. So it's the Festival of Students projects, and the fields covered by this festival covered really a wide range of it, because starting from social ideas and purely engineering ideas, the students could organize any project, and with the help of Ukrainian mentors, they had the possibility to create projects aimed at restoration of Ukraine. And this year we are going to organize it again, and you are more than welcome to participate in the teams with our students. And again, our international plans, we can do anything, so we can do a lot together, both for in educational process and social times, and organize different projects, and actually, I do hope that it didn't take a lot of your time right now, that knowing that it's evening, but I do thank you for your attention, for your patience, for your time, and for your standing with us, for your welcoming reception, and for everything your team is doing for us and for the Ukrainians who are here, and for your support of our country. Thank you very much. Thank you for standing with us.